Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of brilliant battle in action in the SimRacing International GTE Championship Season 2 as brought to you on the premier racing platform available only on PC known as iRacing. That's right, we're back once again, we're live from Circuit Side tonight and in good time as well because it is time for round number 10 and where exactly we've made our way to today for our penultimate round of the season. Well, we have made our way back to US of A for none other than the Road Atlanta circuit. Known in full as the Michelin Raceway at Road Atlanta for sponsorship reasons, this circuit located near the Georgian state town of Brazelton is one of our shortest on the calendar. Only 2.54 miles in length, consisting of 12 quarters. On paper at least, you would think immediately this is going to be one of those circuits that's very short and therefore quite simple to master, but you would be incredibly wrong at that, because arguably this is the hardest circuit on our calendar and it is nicknamed the roller coaster of road racing for a reason. At its core, in amongst all those 12 corners, is a multitude of elevation changes, some of them aggressive, some of them gentle, but they all add up to create a circuit whereby for the driver and machine it is all about rolling through the hills and making sure that you're able to nail apex after apex, with many of them being blind. With most of the corners as well having very limited markers to them, this is going to be a circuit that's just as much a test of consistency and muscle memory as it is going to be a test of outright pace and handling of a car, and therefore for our drivers today it's all about jumping on the ride and seeing whether you can outlast it over the distance. And whilst this may only be a 60-minute race round, I'll tell you one thing, this is going to feel much like a 1.5 hour race with the amount of endurance and stamina that's going to be tested out of our drivers. But who exactly will outlast it best, who's going to win at the end of the roller coaster, well, that's what we're here to see, is bring you all the racing action live from Circuit Side. Alas, where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side as you tune in tonight via the one and only place you can catch all the racing action on a weekly basis from the SimRacing International GTE Championship, and that is, of course, on our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com and search for SRI or SimRacing International, and you can tune in today and join the likes of none other than Andrea Marchetti. And well, good evening to you, Andrea. I hope you're doing well, and I'm sure we've got the Gianluca Rospo fan group in there as well. Of course, Andrea being one of the many fans there of Gianluca Rospo. But don't be shy, feel free to say hi and let us know how you're all doing. And if you've not had a great week, if you've got a bit of a frown on your face, well, let's turn that frown upside down to a good old smile, because it's Friday evening, the weekend is here, it's a bank holiday weekend, at least in the United Kingdom, and it may be further abroad as well, and we've got plenty of racing action to expect here today. And well, of course, if you subscribe to the SimRacing International YouTube channel, you can stay up to have all our latest racing action on a weekly basis from all of our series, including, of course, the GTE Championship. In the content booth, you have myself, my name is Paul Walsh, initiated, and I shall be your host and commentator for this season. And as we make our way into this round, we need to bring up speed with the story after 8 rounds of racing, and particularly what happened last time out in an absolute thriller, Interlagos, and indeed there's nothing quite like it. But to explain, let's take a brief trip back in time. And as we can see, taking a look to our calendar, today is Friday the 22nd of May. Round number 9, Road Atlanta, and sunny skies abound for a 1 hour race. But last time out on the 15th of May, it was the Interlagos Grand Prix circuit in Brazil that welcomed our drivers. Now, the mixed conditions in the end proved to be cloud and sunshine, with the circuit getting quite hot towards the very end of the race, but for the most part, it's a very pleasant day at Interlagos, and the threat of rain never quite materialised. However, what we got to see materialised at Interlagos, well, there were 3 different parts today. Qualifying, let's start off with that. In the qualifying session at a circuit that everybody knows and loves, we got to see the top 2 of Philip Ansell and Tim Perry stand apart from the rest of the field by 2/10 of a second, and then it was the rest of the field headed by Max Chambers in the pro class. But from 3rd to 30th overall, it was only 1 second that separated a grand total of 28 drivers. So let's just repeat that. From 3rd to 30th, 1 second separating all those drivers, and it made qualifying an extremely challenging prospect even for the class favourites, resulting in some major shocks, and perhaps the biggest ones of them all, of course, in the interclass, while the main championship contenders are Mark Kelsbear struggling to go no higher than 8th place at Inter, and meanwhile in the club class, James Bostock started all the way down in 13th place. But it also meant we got to see some season bests, particularly in the club class, and it was a maiden pole position in club for Ivan Hauptke, who in the end put on a very good display, although he was beaten to the club win, and we'll come to that very shortly. Now, when the racing got underway at Interlagos, we saw phenomenal racing throughout, whether at the start, in the mid-portion, or towards the very end. But the start of the race, it was all about settling down, getting into a rhythm, and playing the game of strategy, with tyre conservation and fuel management being absolutely key. However, the first phase was all about getting to that pit stop. The second phase, of course, saw plenty of action, to the point where in the late stage of the race we had some very contentious moments, including a huge twist in the battle for second place driver Lintvega, when he comes into this round, unfortunately for him, with a penalty that's being applied, and that penalty being none other than, I do believe, a qualifying ban and a pit lane start for this round. So therefore, if he wants to try and close up to the top 4, he's got a lot of work to do. But more closely to him is Rian Casti, who sits in 6th, only 2 points behind. The Irishman, in turn, had a bit of a difficult day in the office in Brazil, and you could say the same for Pedro Luis da Silva. The GPX's Xenon driver with that non-finish, a retirement from early on in the race, and things just haven't quite been right for the Portuguese driver in the second half of this season. But hopefully we'll see things a little bit better for him today, perhaps. Aramis Linskas, where he's on a run of podiums, or he has been, but he wasn't on the grid last time out, so therefore it does mean that he adds a 0 score to his campaign, and this will be by Lintvega driver now knowing he's got a bit more work to do if he wants to finish inside that top 7 come the end of the season. Joris Peters Eames sits in 9th there for GPX's Xenon, closing on 7th and 8th place, only 7 points behind the pair, and in turn he's only 8 points ahead of Christophe Dubois, who in the end would have had that podium if it not for the late error into towards turn number 1 on the final lap of the race, and the live simracing.com driver now knowing there's a bit more to do if he wants to try and make his way into 7th place and bring home a trophy of his own. But Benjamin Massey continued to build the pace for Inox Motorsport. It was 13th place last time out. Not a happy day in Brazil, but he'll be hoping this will be a stronger day for him because he normally goes well at Road Atlanta. And Mark Hutchinson, what a recovery drive it was for him, the Altitude 3M Esports driver. And arguably you could say there's one driver's had a lot of bad luck in the Pro class this season, and it's not Pedro Luis da Silva, it's definitely Mark Hutchinson. But then we do come to the interclass, and here we can see in the second tier of our classes, Jordan Shamblin leads the way on 336 points, and we see Kudo Academies, Mark Kalsbear and David Payne, they are getting closer to each other little by little. And for Kalsbear, we struggled in qualifying, and taking only the 8th place in qualifying, but in the end was able to gradually make up some places in the race, but he seemed to fall off the race pace in the late stages, and he needs a huge turnaround in form now, because if he does not, well, the 5th place from last time out could be the best that he's going to get in the second half of this season, and that's not what we'd expect from the man who was on course to potentially take multiple wins earlier in the season, but bad luck seemed to prevent him in the first half of the season, and right now something's not quite right. But still, David Payne, his teammate, he's risen, while Kalsbear is falling, and he has closed the gap now to only 9 points between the two of them, but both of them need to find a way to work together to bring down the dominance of Shamblin. Jan Lintz, well, he sits behind those who have finished on the podium on a regular basis, and the Kazakhs racing team driver from Germany on 277 points. Don't rule him out. He's an outsider for the championship crown, but right now he's definitely looking to put a fork in the road between the top 3. But behind him, it's 230 points to Vidas Andriskevicius, and a non-finish last time out. Not the way he wanted it to go whatsoever for SRB, and the Lithuanian driver right now will know that with certainty his fight is primarily for 4th place in this championship. Quality 2 sits in 6th, a further 4 points behind, and well, it wasn't a happy day for him either last time out. The Chinese driver had a bit of a difficult day under the Brazilian sun, and Victor Shimura, by comparison, the Spaniard, well, to be fair, Anosis Esports have gone very well in the past at Interlagos in this series. You only need to look at Season 1 for their absolute brilliant performances, but for Shimura, keeping it alive for the team, were 3rd place finish last time out. And well, for the Spaniard, he'll be hoping that he can add another podium to the mix, because that was his maiden podium of the season. He was absolutely ecstatic about it when he crossed the finish line, and when he had to work very hard to bring home that podium. But can he go a bit further today and perhaps get himself into the top 5? Meanwhile, behind, it's 19 points there to Sebastian Schwerdtfeger, who unfortunately will not be on the grid today. At last minute, he has had to take some personal time. Nothing bad, to be fair, but I do believe with the summer weather coming around in Germany, he's having to spend a bit of time with the kids, which is always great, and glad he's having a good time with the kids. I think he's missing the racing, but understandably, we won't be seeing our wonderful privateer driver today. So that means Olivier Granier is very likely to take that 8th place off him, only a point behind currently, although he missed the previous round, but hopefully we get to see him back today. If not, then Flavien Thieffry may have an opportunity should he be on the grid for Valent Racing Team. He's missed the last couple of rounds, but the team are going on strong in the form of John Becker, and Thieffry will be hoping he can be back on the grid as well. Clyde Vella and Kevin Smith complete your top 12 in the interclass, only 3 points separate the pair, and Vella outside the top 10 based on result countback, given the fact that GPX is what Vertex Dry hasn't taken the podium. Thieffry, meanwhile, has taken a 2nd place this season. Then to the club class we go, and here we can see in the 3rd tier of our classes, it's Gareth Newton who leads the way. However, I've been informed in the build-up to this round, ladies and gentlemen, of a very interesting permutation for the club championship. Gareth Newton will not be on the grid for the season finale, which is an undroppable round, so therefore he may be a leader right now, but this will be the last round you see him on the grid for this season. And what it does mean is that the man who refers to himself as the Tortoise is going to be caught by the Hares at the very end of the season. 2 of those Hares being Dwayne Hoffman and James Boston, another one being Mark Kent. So therefore, really for Gareth Newton today, it's all about getting as many points as he can to see how high he can finish. But keep in mind how close it is right now in the championship charge, and therefore, in theory, he could drop all the way down to 10th place if the maths goes against against him. So for Gareth Newton, he really wants to end the season on a high, and he's been an absolute inspiration because he hasn't been the quickest driver out there, but he has shown to lead a championship on a regular basis. You don't need to be the quickest, you just need to be the most consistent. But Dwayne Hoffman's coming to an element of his own as the season has gone on, and while Gareth Newton struggled last time out at Interlagos, having to get a 6th place in the end out of the bag, and was a 12th place in qualifying, so he gradually made his way forward and drove a very safe race. And Dwayne Hoffman, you could say, was a similar story in the fact he had his best qualifying points of the season with a 9th place in class, but the 4th place in the podium just seemed to escape him. And well, he didn't quite have the pace to challenge for the podium, but he had the pace to be the best off of the podium. James Bostock, meanwhile, what a salvage drive he had to go for in the end, starting all the way back in 13th in class behind Newton, but then he came storming through the field and brought home that 3rd place, but he really had a major turn of pace in the race. But it makes the question, what would have happened if he'd had the better qualifying lap? Well, who knows, but the GPX's what Onyx driver will definitely know he can't afford to have that happen again if he wants to take the crown. Mark Kent, keep your eyes out for him as well, the full tilt virtual motorsport driver trying to catch up to his teammate of Hoffman, and understanding on 249 points. Well, right now still some work to be done, given the fact he has 2 DNFs, one of which is dropped, one of which counts, and he has that 5th place from last time out. Gianluca Rospo, it was a non-finish for the Italian driver, and the Deeb Motorsport driver holds 5th currently, but he is only ahead of Nathan Healy by 5 points for the full tilt virtual motorsport driver, salvaging the top 10 out of a difficult day at the office in Brazil. And John Becker with a maiden win is suddenly only a point behind the trophy positions in 7th place of Valent Racing Team. Jaden Innes, where it was looking quite good for him until it all went wrong in the early stage of the race, and the Cuda Motorsport driver slipped down into a 12th place finish, and he's now 8th in the championship, but he's still ahead of Brian Beardsworth by only a grand total of 16 points. And we do see Mikel Shalkuni sitting in 10th place there for Rhino Esports by Edge Overlays, and right now on 174 points, he'll fancy his chances of breaking back into the top 8 if he can today. Marcus Clayton, his teammate, sits in 11th place there, the American driver, now on home soil for this round, and Andrew Fellows, a further 15 points adrift, sits in 12th place. But then we come to the Team Championship standings, ladies and gentlemen. Here we can see we have our 2 leading contenders, one of which is Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, the other one is Cuda Motorsport, and they are getting close together, with Cuda Motorsport gaining the ground last time out, and now 12 points separate the 2 teams. It's going to be between them, it would seem, for the crown. But Cuda Academy, they're not out of it yet, and they remain in 3rd place with a decent round for the team, but their rivals are closing on them, and only 3 points behind, it's WePay 300 Esports. And right now, for going from 5th to 4th, they had a great round, and they were within the reach of the top 3. How far can they go? With Concord Motorsport slipping from 4th to 5th after a difficult round for the team, despite the win for John Chamberlain in the interclass, and they know that with how tight it is right now, they've got to be looking forward, not looking back, because if they look behind them, and they will see that GPX's were Onyx, well, they remain 6th, and they're starting to gap their sister teams of Vertex and Xenon, but they're also closing the gap to the top 5. Vertex try to follow in their wake, and meanwhile Xenon fall a little bit further away. And right now they're under increasing pressure from Valent Racing Team and also Altitude Frame Esports, whereby the latter of the 2 teams have gone from 12th to 10th once again. They've broken their way back into the top 10, but can they stay? There were 2 rounds to go. Given the fact going from 14th to 11th, it's Live Sim Racing, not on screen, but they're only 2 points behind Altitude Frame Esports in the battle for that 10th place, but they bring GazX Racing Team and SRB by Lint Vega and SRB, all 12 points behind them within a whole range, all to the party. So it's anybody's game as to who's going to be in 6th through to 10th in theory, but we're starting to see our main contenders for the trophies in the top 5. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring you up to speed with our circuit for today. Here's, of course, the Road Atlanta Full Course, located near the town of Brazelton in Hall County of the US state of Georgia. 2.54 miles in length or 4.08 kilometers, depending on your preference units, but what never changes is the number of corners, 12 of them in total. And a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track maps that are contained within it. However, as we can see, the whole first half lap is dominated by sweeping bends, albeit a 2-dimensional image doesn't show the elevation changes woven into them. And then the latter half lap is a long back stretch to the tune of almost a mile, while drivers make the way through a chicane added in the 1990s to improve safety. Otherwise, it would have been a straight run in towards what is now turn 11. And as the drivers make the way out the chicane, they'll come over the rise and down into the fast-flowing right-hander at turn number 12 to complete the lap and do it all over again. We say it very quickly because that's how quick the lap is going to go, and what better way to show you than go back to qualifying and bring you a few onboard laps to our drivers, ladies and gentlemen, so let's exactly do so. Now, as the drivers continue to make the way around, who's looking to be the fastest of everybody at the moment in this qualified session? And well, that would be Philip Ansell. No surprises there, perhaps, but perhaps the biggest surprise of all is the gap he has to the rest of the field in this qualified session. Given the popularity of this circuit, it is, of course, the annual host of the Petit Le Mans, the 6 hours of Road Atlanta on an annual basis, which the GTs used to compete in as part of the IMSA Sports Car Championship until they were replaced with GT3 towards the back end of the 2010s. Well, Philip Ansell right now would have been expected to be a bit closer to the rest of the field. He's put 3 tenths between himself himself and the next closest man of Tim Perry. So Perry looking very quick out there right now, but can anybody find a way to punctuate that gap? Well, meanwhile, Isaac Farrer, Ansell's teammate, is currently in third place and only the best part of 400ths behind Perry, but in turn is only 5.5 hundredths ahead of Mark Hutchinson. So it's looking as though the front two rows are going to be a spread of Cuda Motorsport and Altitude Frame Esports. Well, could we have a bit of an inter-team rivalry here? We'll have to wait and see. Wilson Liu, the man who today, when he needs to be second best, he ideally needs to beat Philip Ansell to give himself the best possible chances of taking the Pro Championship at the end of the season at Mexico next week. But right now down in 5th place overall. That's not where he wants to be. But right behind him, well, this is a resurgence. We were waiting for the day when we'd see this name towards the front of the interclass in qualifying. Mark Helsbear, this is what he needs today as he makes his way on around. And do keep in mind that he does have a little bit of an opening today, as does David Payne. Now, David Payne's currently the full fastest of the inter-drives for Cuda Academy. I was going to say Cuda Motorsport there, but I made sure to get the name right. And as he makes his way on around, the opening that both of them have is the fact that with Victor Shimura in second place currently in this qualifying session, the Inters, well, that's a very impressive qualifying performance from the Enosis Esports Corvette driver. So that's going to add another foe in front of Jordan Shamblin to try and make his way past. But speaking specifically about the Concord Motorsports driver, Jordan Shamblin, he comes into this round with a penalty to be applied to this race. And that penalty, because he has picked up 10 licence points on his GTE racing licence here at SimRacing International, is he has a drive-through that must be served at some point in the race today. Now, you can serve it any time from the end of lap 1 all the way through to the penultimate lap of the race inclusive. He cannot take it on the formation lap, nor can he take it on the final lap of the race. He must serve it at some point during the race, and given the length of the pit lane here at Road Atlanta, it's not the worst penalty to have here, but it's definitely going to be a bit painful. It will cost him the tune of around about 25 seconds of the race, so therefore as he makes way around, he'll know that wherever he starts, he's got to add 25 seconds onto his race time at some point, but when he adds that time on, it's entirely up to him. And if I was a betting man, he'll either take it right at the start of the race, put himself at the back of the field, or if he starts this high up, he will do it right at the end of the race, where he knows that he'll be as high as he possibly can, and therefore he loses the minimum possible time. He'll go racing up to that point, but still the tactics are going to be with him, but not too far behind him. 12th overall at the moment is your car provisional pole sitter, and that is Mark Kent. Now, as he makes his way on around, you'll notice that the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport team today, albeit Kent decides to park the car up, so he tows the pits. He doesn't give us the best look at the car there. That's just coincidental timing. That's not me blaming Mark. We do look to Dwayne Hoffman, who makes his way around in the BMW M80 blue machine, and you will notice on the top of the car, although I don't think we can get any airborne pictures of the car as he makes his way around. In fact, I'm hitting where we have got a helicopter that's making its way up towards the cars. We'll have to wait and see whether we can get the helicopter camera to follow what is Hoffman's car. I think we are going to get it, and we look to the helicopter view. And what you will notice there as he weaves his way between the corners is he does have a NASCAR liveried number 8 painted on the roof of the car. Not easy to see. I wonder if we can get a bit of a magnified look with regards to the car. And there we can, in fact. And we've got a drone camera following it now. And well, that number 8 in honour of Carl Busch, of course, who unfortunately passed away very suddenly as of yesterday. Well, to put you in the frame, if you don't know who Carl Busch is, an American NASCAR driver who has a huge list of achievements, including the 2015 and 2019 NASCAR Cup Series champion, as we do take a look away from the drone camera because we've run out of the AA batteries inside it. We look more into the circuit side cameras now. But your 2015 and 2019 NASCAR Cup Series champion, also the all-time record holder for wins in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series of 69 wins. Also the first driver to ever win on every track competed on in the NASCAR Cup Series, and the first driver in NASCAR's history to complete a triple threat, i.e. winning all 3 major series in one weekend, and has done it twice in his career. And we're very sad he's passed away at the age of 41, and he'll be very sorely missed by the motorsport community, not just in NASCAR, but around the globe. And Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport paying tribute by running Carl Busch's number 8 on the roof of their cars, and also a slightly revised livery there, and that's absolutely lovely to see. But also what's great to see is Dwayne Hoffman, currently the full fastest in the club category, and as he makes his way on around, well, right now the 190 driver, well, this could be one of his best qualifying points of the season. He looks very happy at this circuit, to be fair, and well, perhaps for Hoffman, this is a circuit that really feels like home. But Jaden is currently the 3rd fastest in the interdrive, just a little bit ahead. It's Porsche 911 RSR, and well, looking good. But even a Hauptke as well, the pace for Hauptke, well, it looks like Interlagos was not going to be just a one-off there for the privateer. And right now, as he makes way around it in the Mantis livery Corvette, I can tell you one thing, that's a lot of smoke somebody's put up there going through the S's. I'm not quite sure who's put that up, but goodness me, that's quite the vape cloud that somebody's laid down, albeit that will be most likely off of where a driver has slid very sideways. Alternatively, they've got on the brakes very hard and all the brake dust and smoke is coming up. But either way, even Hauke makes his way on around. Right now, the 120 driver in his Corvette, well, he's looking good, albeit Markin is currently the best part of half a second quicker than the rest of the club class. He does say hello there on the side of the camera as he makes his way onwards, but Mark definitely looking quick. Nathan Healy, meanwhile, the third member of Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, down in 33rd place, 11th in class, but to be fair, he's got a bit more time. He might be able to improve before the day is done. Now, we do say hello to a few of you there in the YouTube chat, including Kitty's Mad, who says, woohoo, GT Friday. Good evening, Paul. Hope you're well. I'm doing very well, thank you, Kitty, and I hope you're doing well as well. It's getting a bit hot here in the United Kingdom in this commentary booth. We have had to crack open a window slightly, albeit the fact as I look over my left-hand shoulder, I've actually forgot to open that window, so it's going to get a bit hot in here, but still, to be fair, the thing that's boiling hot in my heart right now is seeing GTE racing, so therefore I can forgive it and I can forget the sweat. I hope you're doing it well as well. We also do say hello there to Marco Pitaluga in 1W, who says, good evening, everyone, and good luck here for the Rospo supporters. And where is Gianluca Rospo? Here he is at the moment. We're not going to keep you away from seeing the man that everybody loves, to be fair, and indeed, he's even got a little place in my heart right now as the Italian driver. He's not the quickest out there, but to be fair, you don't need to be the quickest for Deep Motorsport to build a bit of a fan club. He's definitely had some great results this season, and of course, almost pulled off that incredible podium at Spa-Francorchamps by staying on the wets when everybody else went to the slicks, but it didn't quite work out for him. And James Bostock, unfortunately, being the Dick Dastardly of the show and being a bit of a party pooper, but to be fair, he had to go for it given his championship was definitely on the line at that point in time. But Gianluca Rospo makes his way around. Good to see him there, as it's good to see Marco Pitaluga. And we also do say hello to ZH7747, who says, good evening, everyone. Hope you've had a lovely day and good luck to everyone racing, especially Max Chambers. Speaking of which, Max Chambers is out there at the moment. Where exactly is he, I hear you ask? Well, he's currently in 19th place overall, 11th in the pro class. Well, the Concord Motorsport driver, one of 3 drivers on the team, looking to go all in today. But as we also do see Kitty Mad, shouting out a bit of good luck there to the Rado Esports drivers as always. We also do say hello to Izzy Pop, who's here to cheer on the Altitude Esports drivers, of which Tim Perry out there now, so we can see the Ferrari man. Indeed, trying to make the Proud to the Horse do proud, but Philip Ansell kind of the fastest for everybody. Indeed, it looks as though Perry is following Mark Hutchinson on the round. So I wonder if they're trying to give each other a bit of a tow here just to try and get them closer. Well, there's nothing wrong with that, and they might just be able to pull off a bit of magic. Now, as Hutchinson makes his way on around, we also do say hello to Craig Tillerson at 34 there, or CTIL34. And well, I'm doing very well, thank you, Craig, and I hope you're doing well as well. We do see you on the grid, but hope all is going okay on your end. But speaking of things that we need to get okay for, well, we've got the thumbs up. We're going to get you an on-board lap or two of one of our drivers, ladies and gentlemen. And well, we can't quite get it with Philip Ansell, who's just leaving the pit lane. But what we can do is get you on board with the second fastest driver out there right now, and that's Tim Perry, as he makes his way through the chicane. And here he goes then for a flying lap of Road Atlanta. He's made his way over the crest and down through turn number 12 in the Ferrari 488 GTE Evo as he comes towards the timeline. Here he goes onto a lap. Hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. This is a quick one. So in towards the opening uphill right-hander at turn number 1, braking about 150 meters and quarter apex, trailed off very quickly. Now flat out up the hill through turn number 2 he goes, and braking here as he lines up turn number 3. You can't see turn 3, you have to brake for it completely blind. And now downhill through turn number 4. Brings the car to the left-hand side to open up the S's. Oh, the rear of the car, let's go! And Perry in the end, a very light rear end on that Ferrari. No fuel in the car, and it all goes sideways to the barrier. So Perry's going to tow to the pit lane and very quickly get it rolled there. And all the work that's been put in as Mark Hutchinson parks up was all in vain. But I suspect Perry there with very little fuel and tyres that were absolutely in their prime. Well, in the end, just a bit too much momentum change. But that's how quickly it can go wrong. But now Max Chambers makes his way up the hill. Let's carry on the story. So Chambers now tries to survive turns 2, 3 and 4 as he breaks his way through 2 and in towards 3 and now downhill through turn number 4. As he comes down, he gets the car over to the left-hand side as quickly as he can to open up the S's. No corner numbers here. It's right, left, right. And as you come through the right-hander, brake immediately for turn number 5. Down to third gear. And as he exits out, you can go one of two ways. Keep it tight or go wide. If you go wide, you bounce over the exit curb and you've got to be ready. The suspension's got to be ready to travel. Now onto the brakes here for turn number 6. He brakes 100 meters of the corner apex down to third gear. Now up into turn 7. The heaviest braking zone in terms of low speed. All the way down. That completes the first half of the lap. But it's not the heaviest braking zone for the entirety lap, just the first half. As now it's a long run down the back stretch here. Heading down the back straight. And we'll come through the kinks of 8 and 9. He's done 8. And very shortly coming through turn number 9. The little right-hand kink. And getting ready for the downhill plunge. But the cars will bottom out if they're going low enough on ride height. And as he comes into the braking zone for the chicane, he brakes about 170 meters from quarter apex. All the way down to second gear. Join the dots together through 10A and 10B. And now put the throttle down over the crest of 11. And down the hill he goes. plunging towards the sweeping corner of turn number 12. Flat out here to complete lap and do it all over again. And for Max Chambers, it was a decent lap. Did he find a bit more time out there? And the answer is not quite, but he is improving in terms of his sectors, and we look forward to seeing whether we can do a little bit more at the very end of this. Meanwhile, John Becker's made his way out there. He's on his first flying lap of the day. And the Valent Racing Team drivers left it very late as he crossed the timeline. Rian Casti right behind. Well, Becker, going to be a bit of connectivity issue there for Becker, and I wonder whether that's holding him back a little bit. When he gets a lap on the board, it's a 19.090, and Rian Casti will be very grateful to have his toe right there because he did improve by a couple of attempts. Here's Gavin Corby making his way around with 1.5 minutes left to go, as we also say hello to Mikhail Abasek, who sadly we won't be seeing on the grid for the remainder of the season for Inox Motorsport. However, it's not all doom and gloom, it's just his personal circumstances and his schedule doesn't work out to enable him to go racing in the final couple of weeks of this series, plus also our Thursday GT3 Championship. But Mikhail's all well and good as far as we're aware, and we do look forward to seeing him back on the grid for Season 3. Speaking of which, stay tuned at the end of tonight's broadcast. After we've done the interviews, we are going to be unveiling quite a bit of information regarding Season 3. It's hot off the press, and we'd love to share it with you all. Particularly if you're sat there right now thinking that you want to get on the grid for Season 3, well, there's a lot to cover with regards to Season 3. It's not quite going to be Season 2, but all for good reason. In good time, we'll explain it all to you. But let's focus on the here and now. And the here and now says that as we do see Gavin Corby there being a bit liberal with track limits, well, that's going to invalidate lap. He won't improve. Gianluca Rospo does improve. Goes 8th there in the club class at 29th overall, the 1 minute 17.055. These lap times are so tight. As there are a few drivers decided to back off, not going any quicker, it would seem. Meanwhile, we do have the best part of what is 20 seconds to go. Well, let's go to our Corvette C8R GTE of Christian Ablasser as he goes on to one last lap. He's made his way out of the corner and down towards turn number 1, the Gazix Racing Team Pro Machine. And heading in towards the opening corner here, onto the brakes he goes, coming down to 4th gear. Nice and tight early apex, bury the throttle, it's camber uphill, and now brings the car to the right hand side to open up turn 2. Braking there, coming all the way down to 3rd gear, mounts the curve, very smooth line there from Christian Ablasser, but he's got to keep it over to the left now, and coming down the hill in towards the S's sequence, right, left, right here. But you can see a little bit of hesitation of the throttle, that's natural, you want to let the rear of the car settle down if you can. But coming out of turn number 5, uses all the exit curve, they've set the Corvette up to ride that curve, and going up towards turn number 6, the first of the two 90-degree right-handers, onto the brakes, and goes as late as possible, dropping down to 3rd gear, and now in towards turn number 7, down the gearbox to 1st gear. Goodness me, they're going all the way to the 1st gear. Well, if so, they've definitely set this car up to use 1st gear. You don't normally use 1st gear at most circuits in these cars unless you set up that gear correctly, because it's normally a pull-off gear. It is not a racing gear. But as they make their way down the hill now towards turns 10A and 10B, well, for Christian Ablas here, I suspect he'll be in 2nd then for what will be the chicane. He surely can't be in 1st for it. Onto the brakes he goes, braking about 150 meters from corner apex as late as he dares to dream to do so, and will joins the dots together. It goes a little bit deep at 10A, that slightly scuffers his line through 10B, and as he comes over the hill, well, he's going to straight line it all the way through. He's going to see if he can improve for the final sector. Was it going to be for Ablasser at the line this time? And the answer is going to be, it's not an improvement for him. It's a 1 minute 16.009, only 200th line his previous best, but still not enough to improve. David Payne comes on through. What's he going to do this time? As Jan Lintz gets his first lap of the board, it's a 16.468. Oh, Payne into the barrier there, and well, not happy with the lap, I suspect. 5th place in the interclass for him and 13th overall best. But Lintz, well, he got one lap of the board, precisely one, and it is a 1 minute 16.468. A good one then, because that's 9th in the interclass, and well, he will be one of the last drivers to set a lap. Benjamin Massey will across the line. He does not get a lap to go. So the Inox Motorsport driver, much like Divilas Lorinonis, we started for the very back of the field. But remember, Lorinonis does have the qualifying ban on the pit lane start. Massey does not have a penalty. It has just not worked out. But the other end of the spectrum then, Philip Ansell has taken the overall, and with the pro pole position by 2 tenths over Isaac Fairweather. Fairweather did improve off camera, and it means it is going to be a 1-2 between them. And Tim Perry is going to be taking 3rd place on the grid ahead of Mark Hutchinson. Mark Calsbear will be your Interpole sitter in 7th overall, and Mark Kent will be your club pole sitter with 14th overall. But Mark Kent, a bit of a world of his own in qualifying, no doubt about it, with regards to the club class drivers. But can he convert it into a victory of his own? We'll have to wait and see. Now, the 5-minute warm-up period. Well, are any of our drivers going to make the way out there? Well, we do see the man had a great day in the office last about at Interlagos of Kai Hitchler. He's going to make his way out, while the 2 members of the Leopard Esports team, although pulls out his pit box and then parks up at a neighbour's there. I think perhaps have a chat with the team. Alternatively, they need to look at something on the car perhaps, but definitely not the way they wanted it to go. But Tim Perry makes his way out here, trying to get all the lap time he can, and the rear of the car just let go when he tried to go for his ultimate lap, and will understandably there, I suspect he was a little bit put off perhaps by the cars that were parking up on the runoff areas, which they're legally allowed to do so, because they're not on the track. And remember, coming out of turn number 4 into the S's, you need to carry all the speed you can, but it's a contradiction. You want to carry speed out turn 4, but in doing so, the car naturally goes to the right. You're coming out of a left-hander, so the car gets pulled straight on. But you need to be as far over to the left as possible to set up the S's, because you go into a right-hander downhill. But to carry speed and also make that left-hand side of the road, you can't do both. You've got to set the car up for that rotation, but of course, the more you weigh the car towards the nose, and I suspect what they've done with this Ferrari is they've taken a bit of the rear wing off of it, or in fact, they may have actually put quite a bit of rear wing on it, but they've raised the rear of the car up to make it less stable on the rear, and therefore more flexible on rotation. Well, the rear of the car there with very little fuel in it, just let go. And well, this is one of those circuits, on paper, you'd think, given that long back straight, you want to set it up as a low downforce setup. In fact, not quite. The lowest you want to go is around medium to high. A lot of drivers will be coming here with a high downforce setup, because this is one of those circuits where the aim of the game is to carry speed rather than worry about that back straight. However, those who set the cars up for straight line speed, if they can find a way to cheat their way past the need for downforce, and that's not saying they're using unfair advantages, but the fact you can use gimmicks with the setup of the car in order to try and find a way to remove the need for some rear wing, well, then you might just be able to carry all the speed down the straight and still be quick through the corners, and that is the arts that everyone will be looking for with regards to setting up the car. They want the straight line speed, but they also need plenty of corner speed. But as we do say hello to the Rado Esports official account there, who says good luck to the Rado Esports drivers tonight, and we'll appreciate you tuning in as always. Good sir and madam, and all the team being on the grid. Well, we are not too far away from going racing. We look to Max Dean, his wonderful Ford GT there, parked up of the Rudolph area, coming out of turn number 4, so we get a good look at the 192, and right now just sitting there patiently, it would seem. But we also do look to James Bostock in the GPX Supersport Onyx machine, and well, black with gold on it, of course, a very lovely livery there, shining bright, well, as he makes his way down towards turn number 6 right now. Definitely looking good tonight. But how far can he go? Because, of course, he's one of the main championship contenders versus Wade Hoffman. But Hoffman got the upper hand in qualifying, if my memory serves me correctly. And therefore, Bostock's got the work to do. Remembering, of course, the fact that after this round, we will not be seeing our championship leader of Gareth Newton on the grid for the season finale, given the fact he won't be able to make that round. Quality 2 heads on down. And well, the 2-on-2 driver in the interclass, not quite the qualifying session perhaps he expected, so he's got a bit of work to do. 2 minutes left on this warm-up session. The drivers are out there, but definitely trying to get to grips with the conditions. Speaking of which, well, these conditions right now, it's a relatively cool day here for April the 24th, 2026. We've gone back in time a little bit, but it is 19 degrees centigrade ambient temperature. That's 21 degrees centigrade track temperature. Quite a bit of cloud over the circuit, so therefore no rain expected, but that will cause track temperature to stabilise very easily. It won't rise too much. Of course, it will go up, and we do have the best part of almost 40 cars out there laying down rubber at full pelt, but it will not go excessively high. We're not expecting that track temperature to push beyond, say, 30 degrees centigrade, and therefore the tyres should last very comfortably over the distance, particularly for a 1-hour race. And of course, we do that. We typically do keep to lower track temperatures and ambient temperatures here at SimRacing International, our modelling of weather, so that way drivers can really get the most out of the tyre compounds. There comes a point around 35 to 40 degrees centigrade track temperature, depending on class of car, and GT is no exception, where suddenly the circuit starts to lose its grip. And also the track state is a big thing. We try to mitigate what is the challenge of the weather conditions when it gets too hot by running at those lower temperatures for this season at least. But as everyone makes their way around, if you're sat there right now thinking to yourself, I might need to go to the bathroom early on the race, alternatively, I might need to top up on my cup of tea, alternatively, you might need to get a top up of your choice of drink or snack, whether it be potato chips, crisps, or alternatively mini cheddars, or anything between, we'll definitely go do that now, ladies and gentlemen, because in 30 seconds, as Jan Lintz makes his way into the pit lane, everybody will be required to come into the pit lane who's out there, and when they all do, they'll then be heading to the grid for our one and only race here today. It'll of course be round number 9 of 10 here from the Michelin Raceway of Road Atlanta, and you won't want to miss the moment. This is truly one of the ultimate thrill rides race. It's no wonder why this is regularly on the GTE calendar and why it's one of the most popular racing circuits in the world, indeed known very well now internationally, whereas there's a bit of an American secret, but the secret is definitely out. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, time has run out on the warm-up. It is time to head to the grid for our one and only race today. Who is going to be taking the victory? Let's find out here at the Michelin Raceway at Road Atlanta. And so here we go, and as our drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for our 9th round of the season in Season 2 of the SimRacing International GTE Championship. We can see Philip Ansell taking pole position there for Coup de Motorsport, pulling off a brilliant coup the team have, with 2 tenths behind him. It's a lockout of the front row, because Isaac Fairweather is there with him. Starting in third is Tim Perry for Altitude 3M Esports, ahead of Mark Hutchinson for Altitude 3M Esports. So, Coup de Motorsport take the front row, then it's Altitude 3M Esports who take the second row. Who will take the third row? Well, it's unfortunately not occupied by a single team. Instead, it'll be We Pay 300 Esports Wilson Liu, who starts 5th, the man who needs to try and keep Philip Ansell within his reach, and Max Chambers starts 6th there for Concord Motorsport with a decent qualifying performance and one of his best in recent rounds. Mark Helsbear has returned to the top of the interclass in qualifying at least for Cuda Academy. This is exactly what he needed, and Arma Solinskas for SLB Motorsport by Lind Vega starts in 8th place. Then on row number 5, Victor Shimaro taking his best qualifying performance of the season, 2nd in the interclass. The privateer for Oasis Esports, and the Spaniard will be joined on that row by Jordan Chamberlain as our formation lap is about to get underway. Now remember, Jordan Chamberlain, he starts third in this race in the interclass, 10th overall, but he has a drive-through penalty that must be served at some point of the race, so therefore expect that he's going to go for broke right at the start, but he will be relegated back potentially towards the very end, if not early on. Starting in length, it's Joris Petersveen, the GPX is what Xenon driver. He's definitely had a bit better day in qualifying so far, but the Dutchman needs to convert it into a good race result. The race results have escaped him in the last few rounds. Oliver Kemp will be starting there in 4th place of Ewan's drives for Concord Motorsport, and he will then have the company of David Payne behind for Cuda Academy. And it seems as though it can't be both Cuda Academy drivers who do well in the qualifying session. One has to do well, and the other seems to have to struggle, and vice versa. So is the momentum now back with Mark Helsbear? We'll have to wait and see. Mark Kent, meanwhile, starts in 14th, your club pole sitter, and right now 4th in the championship, but looking for a win here today, and should he take it, he'll give himself a fair chance going for the championship crown in a week's time. But still behind the full two at Virtual Motorsport drive, it's Quality 2 and Vidas Andruskevicius. One of those drivers will We Pay 300 Esports, the other SRB Motorsports, and they lock out that 8th row in the inter-category. Then we do see, starting in 17th, Ryan Cassidy, the Team Endurotech driver, fluctuating qualified form, down in 17th today, and just ahead of Christian Ablas for Gazek's Racing Team. Kai Hitcher starts in 19th for Leopet Esports, ahead of John Ludbrook for GPX Esports Xenon, and outside that top 20, starting 21st, it's the second of your club drivers, it's Ivan Haupke, the privateer, a very impressive qualifying performance. And you see Jaden Innes join him there on that 11th row, and the Cuda Motorsport driver 3rd in qualifying in the class, back to some of his best, and Jan Lint starts just behind there for Gazek's Racing Team, but ahead of GPX Sport Vertex's Clyde Vella. They'll be 23rd and 24th, 25th on the grid, it's Max Wheeler in his Ferrari for Freewheeler Racing, ahead of Bruno Key, the We Pay 300 Esports driver, back to where he wants to be normally in qualifying, just able to get ahead of Drade Hoffman for that 4th place at the end by a slender margin of only 5 thousandths, but Hoffman there for full two Virtual Motorsport has the company of James Bostock on that 14th row. Two of the big contenders in the club class will go toe-to-toe then. Andrew Fellows for GPX Sport Onyx and Gianluca Rospo for Deep Motorsport complete your top 30. And outside that top 30, Brian Beardsworth 31st ahead of Mikael Salcuni for GPX Sport Onyx and Verona Esports with Edge Overlays. There'll be the Verona Esports team followed up there by Kevin Smith in 33rd ahead of Nathan Healy for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport. On row 18, it's Max Dean, the privateer, ahead of his fellow privateer of Gary Corby. And then we do come to the final qualifying performance of John Becker there, 37th for Valent Racing Team, head of Dovidus Laureanonis for SRB Motorsport by Lind Vega. And on the final row of the grid, Benjamin Massey for Inox Motorsport and Gareth Newton for GPX Sport Vertex. But remember the fact that as our field makes its way through, Dovidus Laureanonis has a pit lane start. But as the field makes its way on around and this formation lap almost ready to get underway, well, not too far away from going green flag racing, ladies and gentlemen, it's to Philip Ansell to take us to the green for round number 9, and with 60 minutes of racing at Road Atlanta. And lights down, away he goes, just like that. They roar the way out to the opening corner as they come down towards turn number 1. Well, right now, Philip Ansell did a good job there to make sure that Isaac Fairweather just tucks him behind. But look behind, it's 3 wide as it ends the opening braking zone. Getting a bit crowded, but it looks so there. It's a good start for Victor Shimura, holding position, battling with Joris Petersveen. The rest of the field heads up the hill, bit of run wide there for Quality 2. He keeps it on the road just about as they now come into turns 2, 3 and 4. This is where things will get very tight as they stake the way through. Further behind, that's going to be 3, 4 wide there under braking. My goodness, that's close. Somebody's lost the front bump. I'm not sure who's lost it, but somebody has. But all the field seems to have made its way through the opening couple of corners. Well done to everyone as they come through the SS sequence. Everyone has survived, and when doing so, well, we're going to see some drivers make the way on. Or are we? Oh, no, we have not. Oh, goodness me, that's Victor Shimura who's gone round, coming out to turn number 5. Some cars have been caught up. Ryan Cassidy's one. He was sliding out the picture. The club field comes on through. He toes in the end, and well, thankfully, nobody else getting caught up in that. So some big drama right at the start of the race, and we'll try to get a replay of that and explain what exactly happened in due course, ladies and gentlemen. But that's not the way anybody wanted that to go. go. But meanwhile, at the front of the field, Philip Ansell is definitely go right now. Trying to bolt away as quickly as he can and looking to be absolutely in control, at least at this time. How there's going to be a lot of work to do here. This is not going to be a race. It's all said and done just like that. And understandably, there is more to be done in this one. But behind, Mark Kent still fighting there, side by side with Vidas Andruskevicius as he comes through the chicane. When the end squeezes his way ahead, Guy Hitchler follows up his fellow BMW and says, right, I'll take that and I'll take you as well. But then Mark Kent says to him, no, one and one only, please, as they go on to lap number 2. But as the field makes its way on through, well, here comes quality 2 now, looking for the move on Andruskevicius. He's being pushed around like a pin cushion here as they come up the hill. Oh, and he goes sideways on the brake into turn 1. And Andruskevicius goes to the grass, and we lose him on the camera there, but he's definitely gone very wide. And Andruskevicius, that's a mistake, an easy one to make, but a very difficult one to recover from. And meanwhile, Jan Lintz, he finds himself a little bit further back, finding himself being crowded with club drivers as Wade Hoffman and Jaden Innes are there. And Hoffman's had a brilliant start to this race, up into 3rd already in the club class. Managing to sneak ahead of James Bostock, or stay ahead of, we should really say. Jaden Innes has lost out on Bruno Key as well. So Hoffman making that headway, and he's got more to do. As meanwhile, Max Weed has had a bit of an instant coming out of turn 5. Can't quite see him on camera, but we've lost him there. We'll get a replay of that when we can. There you can see him briefly in the rear of the picture on the outside to inside of the circuit in the run down towards turn number 6. But Bruno Key fighting with James Bostock, keeping him at bay. And we know these two have a very good relationship off the circuit and on the circuit as well. They're very respectful rivals to one another. But meanwhile, everyone enjoying some good racing so far, no doubt about it, but we've still got plenty more to come. Christian Ablasser losing out to Ivan Hauptke, and in fact, he's losing out multiple places here. I think Ablasser's got damaged that Corvette. He is going very slowly, and in doing so, I think he's trying to nurse that to the pit lane. That front end looks compressed there. That is a Corvette that's gone through the car crusher as he makes his way through turn number 11, and as he does so, oh, goodness me, and well, that's contacted the back of there by the machine, the Vado Esports car. I think that might have been Kevin Smith there, who didn't realise what was going on, so he's flashing his headlights thinking, why is he going so slowly, only to realise here what's going on. Now John Shamblin meanwhile is into the pit lane. Shamblin is going down for his drive through right now. You saw him briefly in the rear of the picture, so Shamblin's decided to go early rather than late. Now is that the right call? Well, I think the call called Motorsport Drive, feeling as though with the way the field is going to be today, it's always going to be very tight. There's no point staying in the pack because you're only going to lose time. He might as well fall to the back of it and fight his way forward rather than backwards, and wants a brave approach today for the call called Motorsport Driver, and I think right now he's definitely able to do everything he can to carve through, unless the thought process is he's going to go for the undercut as much as possible. So as soon as he can pit, he will pit. That may be the game plan. Now Benjamin Massey, meanwhile, who didn't get quite the lap together in qualifying, he's gone from 39 to 30th already, just passing Nathan Healy there. Healy falls to 31st place overall, but still in 12th in the club class, losing 1 place since the start. But the race is definitely staying absolutely intense, no doubt about it. But meanwhile, we do look to Philip Ansell make his way around. As Andrea Marchetti there says, Ansell, it's Mansell. And we're rest of the fact right now, you could say the Cuda Motorsport Driver here definitely has a bit of Nigel Mansell in him in terms of how quick he is proven to be. As he makes his way onwards now, I don't know if he's a Red 5 supporter or not. We'll have to ask him at some point. But meanwhile, Wilson Liu on the back of Tim Perry, and we ride on board. Now Liu here looking for an opportunity to get involved if he can, but as he comes down the hill, well, of course, Tim Perry staying there. Meanwhile, Mark Hutchin has lost out a little bit at the start. He's fallen to 6th place, albeit that's just simply where the battles have played out right at the start rather than major incidents run off track. But Wilson Liu here needs to move forward. Of course, his game plan has got to be to pass that Ferrari Tim Perry, and it's good to see the car diversity. Whilst the Porsche is the most popular car, we do have a Ferrari up inside that top 10, also 2 Ford GTs. We don't quite have any BMWs in there, or alternatively, any other machinery such as the Corvette, but we are quite close to seeing the BMWs get into that top 10 if they can. But right now, Wilson Liu just staying behind there in 4th place. And I think now thinking to himself, well, so long as Perry stays with the leaders, I don't have a problem. It's as soon as that gap starts to open, that's always a worry. As Max Chambers makes his way on down the stretch. Well, meanwhile, we see Mark Hutchin and Aaron Zolinskas queuing up behind in the battle of the 2 Ford GT drivers. Well, here we go into the braking zone. Zolinskas goes to the move, and here he comes onto the anchors. The SRB Motorsport by Lynn Vega drive slides into the space, and well, you could not have scripted that any better. Mark Hutchin there letting that go. He didn't want to fight it too hard. Went for the switchback in case it was a poor run for Zolinskas, but Zolinskas only needs one opportunity. He doesn't normally get it wrong on the brakes, to be fair, particularly this early on in the race. He's normally very good on the anchors, but later on in the race, we'll have to wait and see whether he can hold on. Meanwhile, Gianluca Rospo being passed there by Andruskevicius, making his way through. So Vidas there making some great progress. Gianluca Rospo, meanwhile, has had a good start to his race. He's gone from 8th to 7th as he comes past the static camera at full speed with that lovely camera angle showing you the aggression with the pace they make the way around. They roar the way out to every lap. And right now, the 1-2-2 driver has Andrew Fellows for close company, but Rospo got the upper hand on him at the start of the race, and now is trying to stay ahead of him at this point in the race. A bit further back, Nathan Healy side by side here with Jordan Shamblin. But oh, there's contact between the two, and Healy's going to be sent wide there, but he'll rally across his way back onto the road. So therefore, all we need to do is gradually rejoin going into turn number 3. It'll be as though nothing happened, albeit loses places and decides to rally across his way onto the escape road and the safety road there. So that way he rejoins and around to the S's, but he'll lose all the places. They've got a position there to Mikel Salcuni, who comes through for Rhino Esports Edge overlays. But new livery on the car, it must be said. Looking good is the Italian driver right now as he heads onwards. But Gareth Newton, well, this race has not really given him anything so far. He's gone from 15th to 12th in the club class, but John Shamblin up the inside, and Darius Loinonis, the pro driver, comes through as well. Remember, of course, Loinonis for that pit lane start, so he's going to carve his way through the field. Now, we have lost one driver in this race so far, Rian Cassidy. We've had a few incidents for other drivers, so we will get some replays of those shortly. As we do look to, meanwhile, Bruno Key. Well, here comes Andres Kevicius looking up the inside. And that's going to be for 23rd overall. And the Chinese driver will drop back here. Or will he? No, he goes to battle on the brakes. But here comes Gianluca Rospo, who says, OK, if you're going to make a mistake like that, I'll take the place, thank you very much. And an absolute cool customer there. And Rospo, in the end, I think Bruno Key's been thinking to himself, where on earth did he come from? Well, we look back for the back of the Italian driver now. And here comes Andrew Fellows looking for a move. And Key does not defend that because he knows he's too far ahead to be attacked. But understandably, as they make the way up the hill, this is definitely becoming a bit of a bubbling club class right now. Good battling going on for just being outside the top 5, no doubt about it. But meanwhile, we make our way up to Clyde Vella, who's got Jan Lintz for close company. Kevin Smith has fallen back a little bit with a slowdown penalty, so therefore he won't be on the back of this group just yet. We expect him a bit later on, perhaps, getting his pace is ferocious. There you see him in the rear of the picture, serving that slowdown. But he's 8th in Inter. Now, Clyde Vella and Jan Lintz are together right now as they come in towards the 90-degree right-hander turn number 7. Vella and Lintz still nose to tail, at least for now. And meanwhile, they do have behind them there, I believe, that is the lapdown car Victor Shimaro. Now, we need to take a look back at what happened to it at the start of the race. We've got a few replays lined up. We're just waiting for the perfect moment to be able to take them. Albeit, I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect moment, ladies and gentlemen, but bear with us, we will get there eventually. But meanwhile, speaking of getting there eventually, well, Mark Hutchinson right now is finding that eventually Amos Zelinskas can be passed. And here comes Zelinskas backing him into turn 1. This is the fight for 6th place in pro and overall. And there's contact between the two, and Hutchinson gets sent around, and he can't power for it. It rolls back to the tyre barrier. The rear wing pops off there, and well, for Mark Hutchinson, I don't believe the misfortune he's having right now. Now, Amos Zelinskas has made his way through, and of course, both of them will have their interpretations of what happened there. That was side-by-side racing, but it was very much on the limit. But again, it's not to say that Zelinskas is to be blamed here, to be fair, and that's why we'll reserve judgment. The stewards will have more camera angles than we do, but we'll try and get a replay of that when we can. But unfortunately, that has not worked out for Hutchinson on the outside line. It's always a risk to take when you're battling with someone into turn number 1. But unfortunately, the risks today are definitely becoming an issue. But meanwhile, we look back to Mark Kent. Well, what happened to him at the start of this race? He's lost the lead of the club class. He's handed it quite recently to Ivan Hauptke. So Hauptke to lead the class now. That's happened completely unawares with us. And meanwhile, Kevin Smith here finds that Mark Kent's breathing down his neck. So looking for a move, trying to look one way, then the other. And meanwhile, you see Dwayne Hoffman queuing up. But to be fair, for FTVM, with their drivers as they are right now, 2nd and 3rd wouldn't look too bad. But ideally, they would like to make it 1st and 2nd. It would be their 3rd, 1st and 2nd of the season of the club class. And they would like, ideally, for Dwayne Hoffman to be the winner. Although then again, Mark Kent, I think selfishly, would like to be the winner as well, because that would bring him right back into the hunt for the championship, going into our finale, which is, of course, worth 50% more points as it is an endurance race round. It's 1.5 hours at the Auto Driver makes of the Auto Driver Hermanos Rodriguez. And meanwhile, behind, Dwayne Hoffman there, 6 tenths behind. I think right now he'll play strategy, whereas Kent will try to play battering ram as they make the way on to another lap. And meanwhile, behind, Gianluca Rospo here, find himself being passed by Benjamin Bassi. Here comes Bruno Key looking at the inside. And Rospo decides, nope, you're not coming through. And Andrew Fellows gets a much better run. Now up the inside of Key. Key doesn't look ready to fight this. I wonder if Key's just saving fuel right now and simply looking towards the end of the race. Tyre wear here is going to be one of the big factors. It's only a 60-minute race, but these tyres, they will last 3 hours. But you do really put a lot of pressure on the tyres, particularly with a high downforce setup of these cars. You are going to be absolutely abusing the tyres. It is a clockwise circuit as well, so it will be the left-hand side tyres that really take the beating. And we'll understandably on mid-engine rear-wheel drive cars, such as the Porsche and also the Corvette, it will be that rear right tyre that gets hurt. But Bruno Key makes a bit of an error, and well, he pulls to the side of the road there, letting John Shamblin go. So he gets it quite wrong coming out of turn 5, and well, he makes up for the mistake there. But as we say hello to Mad Season, who's enjoying the beautiful race. Well, meanwhile, we look to the front of the field for a brief moment, and after 10 minutes of racing, it's Philip Ansell, Isaac Fairwell, Tim Perry, Wilson Liu. They're your leading pack, your top 4 pros. Then we do have Max Chambers and Armas Zelinskas, with Mark Calsbear, your leading into driver. The Cuda Academy driver has converted pole into a lead so far. He's got a 2-second gap to Oliver Kemp, who had a lightning start and has moved up into 2nd from 4th. And And right now the smile on his face definitely won't be going anywhere but upwards as the Concord Motorsport driver pursues the leader. Joris Peters sits in 9th place just behind. There you can see him. And then you have David Payne, 3rd of your Inter drivers. And he completes the top 10 for Kudo Academy with Quanley 2 a bit further back, 3.5 seconds wide in 11th. And you have to go back to 15th place for Ivan Hauptke, who's really flown to the front of the club class after starting in 2nd. Well, in the end, he was a long way away from Mark Kent in terms of qualifying pace, but a mistake for Kent, we believe, has enabled him to take that lead. But speaking of looking back on things, let's get some replay starting with the race start. Now, as we did go green flag race and all the field made its way away, we'll get the wonderful blimp camera here for a brief moment. And we saw Philip Ansell take the field away as the green flag went at the final quarter. At this point, Ansell getting a good start there. But as all the field made its way on the round, all the drivers here safely through the opening quarters, no doubt about it, and plenty of fighting going on. But Ansell made his way up the hill, and in a very comfortable fashion, we look back to what is your closer circuit side cameras, all the field safely through the opening bends as best they possibly could. And it was great to see 40 GTE machines all coming in towards that opening braking zone. And we did see Kevin Smith there, the 272, definitely had to get his elbows out to part the seas between the club drivers. But then where did it go wrong? It went wrong for Victor Chamorro on the open lap. This was the Enosis Esports driver, the privateer, making his way through turn number 5, and as he did so, hit the curb a bit too high, and the Corvette grounded out, and he was added to there by was the GPX SimSport machine. Couldn't quite see who it was. It was one of the pros. Oh, and the 333 went around there as well, and that was Rian Cassidy being propelled in a separate instance entirely. This is Rian Cassidy then getting it wrong. Team in Durotech, and he was under pressure there from, I believe, one of the Gazix Racing Team cars. And in the end, just got clipped on the rear, and that's what sent him spinning on around there. So very unfortunate. I think that was Christian Ablas who made contact with him, but that was Rian Cassidy in the retirement of the race. Quality 2 as well, he had to take evasive action going through the sequence of corners. Chamorro was right behind him, so what happened to 2? Because he was in front of it all. So he made his way out the corner. Good run off the bend. Oh no, Chamorro was there in front, and in the end, we're confused with Hauptke, and Quality 2 had to take to the grass to avoid the wayward machinery. But well done to everyone for that. That was definitely a potentially very messy incident, but it wasn't quite as messy as it could have been. But meanwhile, we did have a bit of difficulty for Christian Ablas on lap number 2, and this was Ablas making his way through the chicane with the damage to the car, and this was when Kevin Smith came up behind him, misinterpreting what he was doing, and unfortunately Kevin Smith went into the back of Ablas, and well, those are the facts of the situation it would seem, as Ablas just tried to crawl to the pit lane. But Gary Corby had some difficulty on lap number 4. And this was when he was putting some pressure on for a move of the club class, his 104 Porsche, as he came over the rise of turns 2 into 3, went onto the brakes, and went very deep. There way too much speed, and Max Steenian was able to segue his way past, as was Benjamin Massey. Meanwhile, what exactly happened to Mark Kent? Well, this was on lap number 6, and the answer to that question, he was leading the club class. This was with the Leopard Esports machine of Kai Hitchler behind, went into the braking zone, and as he did so, the rear of the car went round, and Hitchler followed him there. You could have made that up. And well, both of them went round. My goodness me. Well, Hauptke was able to make his way through. Kent had to get the car returned, and in the end, that's how it worked out. And then Hauptke arrived. Well, given the gap that Kent had, my goodness, in the end, well, that's definitely neutralises a lot of advantage, but he was very much ahead of the world. But meanwhile, we had this on lap number 7 for Mark Hutchinson. So this was Hutchinson battling with none other than what was the Ford GT of Amos Selenskus. They made the way into turn 1. And as they did so, I think there was a little bit of contact between the two of them there, and Hutchinson unfortunately come off the worst of the two, and at that speed, about 110 miles an hour as they hit the apex, a small touch like that, the driver on the outside is always going to be propelled wide no matter what. And we did have this for Nathan Healy on lap 8, and this was Healy making his way through turn 1. He'd already had one excursion here earlier on, chased after Gavin Corby, the two of them fighting, in towards turn 2 he went, and the rear of the car let go, locked up the brakes, and at that point you're a passenger in the car, and he just ground his way along the wall, and had to tow to the pit lane. But back to your live racing we go. And they've had some big moments, no doubt about it. We've got plenty more to come, including a big incident for Jaden Innes very recently. But we're going to come back to our live racing for now, given the fact we don't want to miss a moment. But many of you asking, where's Gianluca Rospo? And here is the man who's the hero to many, currently in 5th place in the club class. Andrew Fellows behind him still. But Fellows looking for a move here as they make the way towards turn 1. It's Fellows on the left, Rospo on the right. And he's going to go on the inside here is Fellows. Can Rospo hold it around the outside? You can do so, to be fair, to give yourself the inside of 2, but it puts you on the outside of 3. It's all about where do you really want to be. And for Rospo, he keeps Fellows behind as we jump on board inside the 144. And for Andrew Fellows, this has been a very good race so far. One of his better races for GPXs were Onyx. Also raced as part of the Daniel Newman racing team in our Thursday GT3 Championship. And right now staying with Rospo. He's got a bit more work to do there. Losing out through the S's, but I suspect that's dirty and just trying to get used to following that car behind me. You see everyone's on the dry tyre as they all make the way around. So just gives you an idea. No wet tyres here at all today. Andrew Fellows right now making his way on through here, keeping his head down as much as he possibly can. There's a bit more work to be done by this man. But meanwhile, we look to Oliver Kemp, who finds Joris Peters-Wiebe for close company right behind him. Peters-Wiebe here trying to look for a move. This will be for overall position only. And well, he'll definitely want that if he can. He's so close to the light. He's glued to the back of the man in front. And well, this is going to work out a treat for him as they make the one through. A lot of cloud coming over here. And the headlights going on. It's getting a little bit dusky and dark here at the circuit. But we're not expecting any rain, of course. Just to remind you of that. But right now, Oliver Kemp definitely feeling a bit of pressure from Joris Peters-Wiebe, who's making some very steady progress, it would seem. Looking a little bit further back to Jan Lentz. He's got Clive Vella in front of him, but also behind he has got the lap down car Victor Shimaro, who would love to be fighting with him right now. Understandably, he knows this esports driver a lap down after his lap 1 instant. This is not the way he's wanted to go whatsoever. Now, giving you a quick update, meanwhile, in the club class, we have had a big offer for James Bostock, and that has promoted Roscoe Fellows, Key and Newton all up positions. Bostock has dropped to 8th. We will be getting a replay of that shortly to understand what exactly happened. But we're just waiting to get to that replay very shortly. As meanwhile, we look up to Max Chambers and Arma Salinskas as they power the way onwards, and Chambers right now still holding ground versus Zelinskas, but behind, here's Mark Carlsberg, your inter-leader for Kudo Academy, and he's holding a very comfortable gap to the tune of 3.5 seconds in the leader class head of Oliver Kemp, who's got the growing pressure of David Payne behind as we do look to your class standings. This is definitely getting very tight between these two, as Jan Lentz has found his way past Clyde Vella in towards the chicane off camera. We're going to get a replay for him very shortly. Well, right now, Oliver Kemp, with David Payne getting much closer. In fact, Payne took 7/10 out in that previous lap. I think Payne's getting ready for a potential move here, and I think Kudo Academy feel as though today could be the day where they return their form to the best it has been this season, and they're looking for a 1-2. And well, if so, with the fact that right now Jordan Shamblin gradually making progress, here he is in 10th in the interclass, what translates into 22nd overall. Shamblin's still got some mileage to cover and work to do, but the Concord Motorsport driver, he's definitely keeping his head down as he bounced over the apex curve at turn number 3. That's a bit too much curve for the car's liking, but that's how difficult it is, and even the very best can make mistakes every so often. But ain't no mistake right now. Shamblin's definitely hurrying and scurrying. But his next target, 3 seconds up the road, is Vidas Andruskevicius. But from there, we see a big move. That is going to be for 5th place in Pro and overall. Zelinskas up the inside of Max Chambers. And well, Chambers come back. He's going to try it around the outside. Zelinskas goes as defensive as he possibly can. The Concord Motorsports car so close that it takes up the entirety of the rear camera for the 313. But here he goes, looking to the inside. And will he go for the move? Not quite in the end. Max Chambers there just puts the pressure on, but decides there's no point fighting right now because we're locked into this battle. I might as well save some fuel instead and just stay with the man in front of me. But with that, ladies and gents, well, let's take a look back at some big moments only months ago, including what happened to Jade Addis back on lap number 10. Now, this was Addis. He had already been off, so he got off at turn 5, and we get the earlier replay of this. And what exactly went wrong for Jade Addis for Kudo Motorsport? And the answer is, going through the S's turn 5, took a lot of curve there. That sent the car high and understeering out. Oh, goodness me, a brushing the wall, my goodness. And well, the car was going up onto 2 wheels there, but the Canadian driver just about able to keep it down. And well, unfortunately, the damage to the suspension, you can see the car pulling to the left when he's trying to drive it in a straight line. Suspension damage, that will be a tow to the pit lane. That's why he threw it to the barrier, and then it was going nowhere fast. But meanwhile, we had this for James Bostock on lap 12. At the time, holding on to the top 5 in the club class, but made his way through turn 12. A little tap of the rear, and unfortunately for him, that tap being with the Concord Motorsport car, I believe that may have been Jordan Shamblin. It sent Bostock speeding around, and unfortunately for Bostock, that has reset all of his progress. And we also did have, what was this move from, I believe, Jan Lentz only moments ago. And was a lovely move being made by Jan Lentz. If so, how can we get the replay of it? The answer is no. In fact, we can't at the moment, and we'll try and get a replay of that move a bit later on. Perhaps we come back to your live racing. And well, still more to come, no doubt about it. And we to Oliver Kemp, and he's on the back of Joris Peters-Wiebe. David Payne, 8/10 behind. So Payne letting the gap open up a little bit, and I suspect he's playing strategy right now rather than wanting to pressure Kemp, who's got the pressure past the pro driver in front of him. But as we see with these live pictures, still more to come, as Derrida Slorinonis swapping overall positions here with Brian Beardsworth. That will be for 28th place, another place gained by the SLB Motorsport by Lindberger driver, and well, he'll be quite happy with that. He won't feel as though there's been too much change ahead, and we'll just take it nice and easy at least for now. But speaking of that replay of Jan Lentz making the move, this was the move by Lentz on Clyde Vella, and this was for 6th place in Inter. And we'll make it the way down the backstretch. It'll be a classic move in towards the chicane, look to the inside, and in the end went all in on the brakes there for Gazix Racing Team. Made it very clear he was going for the move, and Clyde Vella in turn made it very clear he wasn't going to fight it. So Jan Lentz up into 6th place in the interclass as a result. But back we come, and as we do, well, right now there's been a bit of change afoot in the club class. Mark Kent is back into lead of the class. Dwayne Hoffman, meanwhile, has been left behind. So what exactly has happened? Well, Hoffman's not made any mistakes, but I wonder if even Hauptke has had a bit of an error somewhere. Mark Kent has passed him, and we'll have to get a replay of that very shortly. We do have it actually queued up with regards to the replay of how Kent retook the lead of the club class, but there is Hauptke behind him, and it's a further 4 seconds back to Dwayne Hoffman, who we see coming down the hill in towards the chicane. But Hoffman right now doesn't seem to have the pace of Hauptke or Kent, and therefore he's going to have to be a bit inventive here. Perhaps they can do some magical strategy for FTVM in order to enable him to get a bit closer. We are 21 minutes into this race. We still do have plenty more time to come. So, understandably, for all these drivers right now, this race is far from done. As Jordan Chamberlain up the inside of Hoffman. Hoffman not wanting to get in the way of the inter-driver's progress, so he's going to simply just let it go and go up the hill. But as he lets him go, more time to be made for Hoffman by following rather than defending. And more smart racing going on from him. Meanwhile, front of the field, your top three now as it stands leading pack, because Wilson Liu has been dropped by Tim Perry to the tune of 2.5 seconds. Now, that could be because of the fact they've had to weave their way through traffic, or it could be for other reasons entirely. Perhaps Liu can't keep the pace, but Isaac Fairwell's the fastest driver on the circuit at the moment, but Tim Perry is very close, and they're all playing full of the leader behind Philip Ansell. Meanwhile, further back, it's for the leader here as we ride aboard with Kevin Smith from Rider Esports Edge Overlays. He chases after Clyde Vela for 7th place in the interclass right now, staying nice and close. This battle for 17th place overall. They've got Benjamin Basti right in front of them as well, and they've got even Hauptke trying to stay with them. But Smith looking for the move. That's a very far back. He's going to go for it, Smith. From that far away, surely not. Well, to be fair, if I know Kevin, I've known him for the best part of 7 years in the sim racing sphere as he makes way over the rise and down the hill. He's going to go all in through turn 12. What a move from Kevin Smith. Now, to be fair, Clyde Vela had to be quite correspondent with that. He had to essentially be obliging, as otherwise the two would have made contact. But Kevin Smith in the end, well, he's made some moves in the history I've known him, ladies and gentlemen, all the way back for his Gran Turismo and also as a set across the Competizione days. But that's up there. That's probably one of the biggest lunges he's ever done. That's one of the first lunges I've ever seen. That was from a whole postcode away. And well, Smith up into 7th place there in the interclass, just like that. Nice move from him. But heading around, well, meanwhile, where is the man behind all this? Rider Sanchez Kevicius. There he is. George Chamberlain is closing very quickly. Although, to be fair, both of the two of them right now are the fastest drivers in the interclass. So their game plan right now is just to see how quickly they can come through. They'll be intrigued to see just exactly where they get to. Remember, Jordan Chamberlain started 3rd place in the interclass in qualifying, and he had that drive-through penalty that you served right at the start. And the confidence is there for the Concord Motorsport driver to try and make that progress. Rider Sanchez Kevicius, meanwhile, started in 7th place, was involved in an early incident. That's reset him down the order, but he's got the pace as well to be right up there. Qualifying was not his key part of the day. It's all going to be about the racing, put it all together. We'll have to see what the game plan will be. As meanwhile, here in a way that Kevin Corby's had to toe to the pitch due to an incident. Unfortunately, it's a bit wrong for him. Meanwhile, we take a look back at how Mark Kent passed even Hauptke. So this was the battle for the lead of the club class all the way back on lap number 12. And in the end, Ken, on the back of him, went up the inside, in towards the chicane. Hauptke did not defend this. So I think respect to the fact that the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport driver is a bit quicker and perhaps prioritised instead to fight for second rather than fight for the win. Well, we'll have to wait and see if that plays out the way he wants for him. As we did have this just moments ago for Gavin Corby. Now, this was under sunshine, heading towards turn number 1. At the time, he was running very happily towards the back end of the top 10 of the club class, and he just went straight on there. I think brake failure for the Porsche driver, and then he got it back on the road, but unfortunately, he couldn't quite get it all the way back to the road, and he went to the barrier and towed the pits immediately there. I suspect, however, a bit of brake failure in that car, and unfortunately for Gavin Corby, the race is over. So we have now lost 4 drivers in this race. We also lost Max Dean, Mark Hutchinson, and first and foremost, Ryan Cassidy. Meanwhile, as all these tries carry on, still plenty of great racing to come. But of course, at the very front of the field, we've got the game of blink and you'll miss it strategy between Philip Ansell, Isaac Fairweather and Tim Perry. Now here today, Cuda Motorsport, they will want this one too. Should they pull it off, right now they would close the gap. They'll practically level the playing field versus Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport going into the season finale in the Mexico City Grand Prix circuit in a week's time. That's what it's all about right now. And remember, Philip Ansell, he is looking for his 8th win of the season out of 9 rounds. Isaac Fairweather, he's looking for another podium. But how many podiums would it be for him? It would be, in terms of points so far, well, in fact, he has had a very difficult result. I think he's only had 1 podium this season. And the Cuda Motorsport driver will be looking for another. But Tim Perry, he is looking for that 2nd place right now. as he makes his way through the left to right, and well, perhaps hoping he can make that move sooner rather than later. He wants to get between them. I think Perry feels though in that Ferrari he's perhaps hit his target on fuel saving and is now seeing whether he can just turn the wheel a little bit here, vouching for him esports, and perhaps thread the needle and become the filling in the sandwich. If he can, he might be able to split the Coup de Motorsport machines on strategy, and that may help him just disrupt what they're planning to do, whatever it is they're planning to do, of course. We'll have to see. As he makes his way on down the hill, a bit further down the road, Wilson Liu still running in full place, 3.5 seconds ahead of Aramis Salinskas, who's bringing Max Chambers to the party. But Liu right now has no friends in front of him to work with, and he's definitely made sure he's got no enemies close behind him either. But from here, we do look a bit further back to the man in 6th in the interclass. It's Jan Lintz, who's looking to go on the attack here versus the fellow Corvette John Ludbrook. Looks the inside in towards turn number 1, thinks about going for it. The answer is no, as we ride aboard the dashboard here, the Gazex Racing team driver. And say what you will about our 222 driver, I'll tell you one thing about Jan Lintz, he gives you plenty of entertainment. Doesn't matter where he starts, he will end up fighting with somebody in his class. He's one of those drivers out there whereby when you see him go battling, it's poetry in motion to see him looking to go on the attack. And right now, he's up against another driver out there who is just as respectful and clean with his racing of John Ludbrook. But we have to leave them for a brief moment because Tim Perry goes to the middle of the inside into the chicane, trying to make the move on Isaac Fairweather and the Altitude Free esports driver. In doing so, the gap to Philip Ansell immediately opens up there to the tune of 0.8 of a second. So right now, Isaac Fairweather is the rear gunner in this situation. He's got the task of making sure Perry does not get between the two Coup de Motorsport machines. But Perry right now has got other ideas. He showed his first signs of looking for the move then and there. Well, can we get a quick replay of what happened? I think we will very shortly. But meanwhile, Lintz looking for the move for Ludbrook. And will that battle for 5th place? The interclass comes down the hill. 2 wide, they come into the chicane. Ludbrook does not cover it off. And Victor Shimura there looks to try and unlap himself in amongst it all. But in the end, John Ludbrook says, no, I'm not giving you the space. I'm giving it up a place. And right now, Ludbrook just tucks in behind and carries on his journey as he goes on to his 22nd tour of the circuit. And a bit further back, Max Wheeler in the three-wheeler racing at Ferrari 488 Evo, still behind Gareth Newton. And the Ferrari driver here, he may be a pro, but right now he's enjoying fighting with the club drivers. Newton and fellows together. Bruno Key a little bit further behind. He's just trying to thread his way through. Brian Beardsworth being passed there by Christian Ablasser, who with the repair works to the car. He took that fast repair. He drops all the way down, but he's trying to make something out of this race now with the time he's got left. Let's wait and see how far he can go up the order of the pro driver in the 398 Corvette. As we got Brian Beardsworth carries on around. And as he does so, well, that gives us an opportunity to take a quick look back at was that battle between Tim Perry and Isaac Fairweather. Now, this was the battle heading down the back stretch, and riding on board, this was Perry's on board view as he looked for it. So, the gap there, getting quite close, and immediately went for it. You could see there that Fairweather was lifted and coasting, but Fairweather, as soon as Perry got alongside, he said, right, Tim, I'll roll up my sleeves here, and I'm going to dig in and make sure you don't get through. And, well, that was the biggest switch from fuel saving to full-out aggression from Isaac Fairweather that I've seen in any driver in some time, and Tim Perry knew how to respond there. He had to back off immediately, as it would have been tears between the two of them. But meanwhile, we have just had the ongoing battle between them continue, and this was only moments ago, making the way down the same stretch of road. So Perry had another shot at it, and well, a lap later, how did it go this time? And the answer is, well, Fairweather defensive, Perry on the inside, being squeezed the apex of today, and Fairweather hold him off, and Perry tried to go for the switchback there, but couldn't get the traction, something the Ferrari doesn't have versus the Porsche. But we come back live once again, and all these battles are really built up to a bit of a crescendo right now, and we're not even halfway through the race, but we'll have to wait and see where they go from there. Meanwhile, Gianluca Rospo on to full place in the club class right now, holding a 1.6 second gap and growing versus Andrew Fellows. He's just opened up another half a second there versus Fellows, with Gareth Newton closed up to the back of Fellows. Well, the man who refers to himself as the Tortoise right now very catching up on the hairs in front of him, and he's gone from 15th in class to 6th so far. Keep in mind, we do have a few drivers that have difficulty, but Newton once again putting together a very strong race, and so it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And we're rolling its way down the hill right now, staying nice and tight in as they come on around. But he tries to make the way forward. We do see that Marco Pitaluga saying, fun fact, Rosberg has a poster of Ansell in his bedroom, and I presume that's a reference to Philip Ansell. We're so a little bit of trivia there and a bit of banter being thrown in, and also see near the one of Frank Alai, a famous Italian singer. And well, I'll be honest, I've been educated today. I didn't know of Frank Alai. Well, I may have to check them out later on today. But right now, it's going to be music to the ears of Rosberg being safe from these two battling, and Bruno Key trying to get involved in the fight as well for 5th place in the club class. But you can see they all head on down, and well, Gareth Newton pulling out the toe there, but I think they might be trying to go for a swap of positions here, the GPX Sport cars, because look how he's pulled out, and well, that's a very obvious. Andrew Fellows on the radio to Newton saying we're going to swap the places round. So Newton going forward here, and I think Andrew trying to help Newton out in his championship aspirations, but remember, the GPX Sport Vertex driver, this is his final round of the season. He will not be on the grid for the season finale due to personal circumstances, and it does mean he's going to need quite the miracle set of results to swing his way to take home that crown at the end of the season campaign. Bruno Key into the pits then. So he's decided to come in quite early. As he does so, the We Pay 300 Esports driver, I suspect the thought process is rather than catch them and battle with them, you may as well come in now, get them out the way on strategy. We'll have to see if that works out. Meanwhile, we see those who make the one out, and Aaron Stalinskas and Max Chambers still nose to tail. Heading on up the hill. Well, it does seem as though right now Zelinska's got the upper hand of the Porsche driver. But again, we do know this Ford GT very quick around Road Atlanta, particularly in the Sprint Series races, the iRacing officials. For 45 minutes, it is one of the quickest cars around here, both on the lap pace and also on strategic pace. But will he be able to keep the Porsche behind in the long term? That is going to be the tough task that awaits him. Coming on through right now, Zelinska's done a great job so far for 31 minutes of racing. He's now just got to do it for another 29 plus a final lap. Jordan Chamberlain on the back here of Kevin Smith for 7th place in the Interclass. Here he comes to the inside. Get the Cork Motorsport driver goal in. He tries to, but the Verano Esports Edge Overlays drive defending hard here in Chamberlain right now. Well, everybody tries he passes. He knows the next one will just be that little bit harder to pass. The pace goes up, and the Frosty that drives to defend will also increase typically, given the fact that nobody wants to surrender the points. But as he rolls his way through the SS sequence here, onto the brakes nice and early, trying to set up a cutback line, but a little bit of understeer there, creeps on the front right tyre. Car just rolled off the apex there for Chamberlain, and once normally Sonny's running a lot of rear wing on this car in order to be able to carry quarter speed, but of course lose the front end aero, and suddenly you've got a car that's very loaded at the back and a car that's very light at the front. And keep in mind as well, this Porsche has the fuel tank towards the front rather than the rear, so this car has a very interesting aerodynamic distribution, whereby with the weight as well, as you go deeper and deeper into the race and the fuel tank gets lighter, suddenly the front end of the car becomes incredibly light, so it really gets a lot of turning as you go to low fuel. But here he goes, and look at one side and the other. Smith makes his move in the middle of the road. Chamberlain squeezes his way to the inside, as is right, I'll take that, thank you very much. And Smith says, well, hold up a second, I'm going to defend all the way to the inside of the next part of the chicane, and up the hill they go, and as they do, too wide over the crest. But who's going to be leading coming down in towards turn number 1? Well, it's going to be Chamberlain on the inside here. Smith's going to surely have to give this up. They're still too wide as they go on to the next lap, and it's going to be Smith on the right, Chamberlain on the left, and Chamberlain right now has got this move done, unless Smith can pull off an absolute masterclass around the outside. He's going to try it, is Smith. He's not giving up, and Chamberlain gives him the space. He does not elbow him out as they come towards turn number 3, and Chamberlain in the end will get it on the brakes there. Surely that's got to be it as they come down the hill, and well, almost taking the camera off the back of the car there does Kevin Smith. And right now in the end, what brilliant racing between these two, and the Verano Esports driver loses out. But to be fair, I think when you involve a battle like that, everybody wins, but not like that for Jordan Chamberlain. The rear of the car bounces around off the exit curve, and he's got to do it all over again. So Kevin Smith in the end gets the place back by pressuring Chamberlain into a mistake, and look who's caught up behind immediately. Vidas Andrus Kevicius, the man who was passed by Chamberlain. And immediately now, we can see there, Andrus Kevicius getting involved in this, and Chamberlain's got more work to do. But as they make the way down the backstretch this time, how will it change? Smith knows he's only 2 tenths ahead before he's even got a third of the way down the straight. So here comes Chamberlain, and Chamberlain right now has put up so much speed here. This is going to be done before they get to the drop. Well, is it going to be done? Well, Smith's going to try to outbrake him, but you see Chamberlain this time coming all the way across the road and saying to him, no, you don't. You stay right on the outside where I know I can keep you there. And George Chamberlain this time gets it done, and Andrus Kevicius makes his way over the rise, but decides, I'm not going to fight this. I'm into the pits. Smart move from the Lithuanian driver for SRB Motorsport. He comes on in, and well, I suspect right now he'll be hoping he can jump them both, particularly if they keep on fighting. But as they head in towards turn 1, that fight has stopped for now. But definitely it could be a fight that erupts once again. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, look at this. Ansell and Fairweather together. Tim Perry's closed back up after being held at bay by Fairweather, but Wilson Liu is closing. Now, understandably, could we be seeing the Cuda Motorsport drive still fuel saving very aggressively here? Perhaps they've decided to sacrifice in race time and the gap because they're confident they can maintain that lead and in doing so save extra fuel. Well, this is going to be just as much a race in the circuit as it is going to be a race in the pit lane at this point. But Cuda Motorsport here, they've got to have a plan, because otherwise, can Tim Perry finally take that first win of the season he's been chasing for so long? Or could Wilson Liu take his second win of the season and just start to level the championship going into the season finale? He won't level it that much, but he'll just give himself an extra chance of being able to take that crown should things go the way he wants it to. But meanwhile, we do see Andrew Fellows. He's been passed by Christian Ablasser, so Ablasser continued his rise up to 24. Fellows trying to chase after Newton and Rosbo, but the gap will open up there. as Rosberg into third place in the club class right now. But remember, we have got some pit stops played out, so we're waiting to see where everyone fits into the big jigsaw puzzle of strategy later on this race. But there's some time out there, as meanwhile we look to Jan Lynch, who's got Benjamin Massey for close company, and will roll his way onwards. We'll have to see what it's going to be between all these drivers. Now, I do believe we might have had a slight issue with regards to where's the YouTube chat that disappeared and reappearing, but I think we've got it back, ladies and gentlemen, so we're keeping an eager eye on it. But do let us know if the stream is still running. We have had some connectivity issues this week, but hopefully everything is running a-okay at the moment. If there is an issue, do let us know, and we'll do everything we can to fix it when we can. But meanwhile, Philip Ansell leads ahead of Fairweather, Perry Liu, and in 6.5 seconds behind is Armas Zelinskas, who right now still has Max Chambers glued to the back of like a bad rash, and we'll see there's an 8:37.47 cheering on at Max Chambers as much as possible, and Chambers has been with this Ford GT for the best part now of 20 minutes, and he's never let it go more than 3 to 4 attempts beyond his sight. Well, it's an incredible drive for Max Chambers, no doubt about it. And right now, can the Concord Motorsport driver find a way in? If he can, well, this is going to be absolutely epic racing between them. But I just wonder whether Chambers right now has gone all in on strategy here rather than thinking about deciding to make the move on the road. And it may be the smarter idea given the change he's got right now. Looking back to Benjamin Massey. Now, he's doing a brilliant job. He's come all the way from 39th from the starting order. Remember, the Inox Motorsport driver did not set a valid lap in qualified, if my memory serves me correctly. He's having a 14th, 9th in the pro class. Obviously, he's got to pit, but still doing a great job. As meanwhile, oh, what's happened to Kai Hitchler as we briefly lose him and he comes back into picture shortly, I believe. But I think Hitchler's hit a wall somewhere because there he is making his way up towards turn number 6. That car is limping on the front right suspension. And there for Esports driver who's looking so confident it's all gone wrong. We will come to that shortly because into the pit lane we're a massive lockup coming down the hill. That's Isaac Fairweather who comes in, and in front of him, that's Christian Amblas and Andrew Fellows, lap down drivers. But for Isaac Fairweather, he is the first to pit out of the leading quartet. Now, what this will likely mean is the game plan of Cuda Motorsports is to split the strategies. They will have Fairweather undercut Ansell, Perry and Liu. Ansell's probably going to go the longest he can, and then Perry and Liu have to decide when are they going to pit. And right now, the game plan is that if it doesn't work out for Ansell, it'll work out for Fairweather. But where does Fairweather come out on the road? That's the thing he's got to be worried about. Does he come out in traffic? Well, here he leaves the pit lane. And as he does so, making his way up to speed, going through turn number 1. He's got plenty of clear track in front of him. Whoever the strategist is at Cuda Motorsport, this is brilliant strategy. They have bought him all the track in the world. Isaac Fairweather, I think, is going to be safe here. And, well, if so, this right now could see them definitely make that 1-2 magic happen here today. But meanwhile, as he heads on around, Armas Zelinskas has Max Chambers still for close company. But all these pit stops now are starting to play out in full fashion. And with those, we are going to see when exactly he's going to pit, when any of these drivers are going to pit. But everyone right now definitely put themselves in a position whereby they're getting ready for those pit stops. They haven't already taken them, but it's finding the clear track that could really make or break a good race. As Kai Hitchler has made it to the pit lane, I'm pleased to announce, and therefore he'll get the repair work does. Look out my content booth window, and Gareth Newton in the pits as well. But as we do see Andrea Marchetti giving some inspirational words there, Gianluca Rosbo. Meanwhile, we come back to Dennis Laurinowicz trying to take on John Ludbrook for position into turn 6. That's going to be a straightforward dive up the inside. Ludbrook not going to fight that, and that's going to be 18th place down to the hands of the Lithuanian driver. Overall, not in class, we should remind you. But meanwhile, as we do come back up to your leaders, there they are, but they've got plenty of traffic in front of them, and this is what Fairweather's strategy is all about. Get out of the traffic sequence as Max Chambers, side by side there with Armas Zelinskas coming out turn number 5. I suspect Zelinskas had a poor run coming out of the S's, and therefore Chambers will take that place. We catch the tail end of the move, but it's a good move being made. Meanwhile, Jordan Shamblin, 2 wide here with Clyde Vella, and the Concord Motorsport driver, the championship leader in the Interclass, is on the move as he looks up the inside. Still recovering from that drive-through penalty, yet saying his pit stop, and Shamblin up into 6th place, and it's there, up the inside of Vella, just like that. Kevin Smith, meanwhile, glued a little bit further back. Well, Shamblin had to absolutely work himself in order to make his way past Kevin Smith. Meanwhile, Clyde Vella, a bit more passive. But then again, the GTE Sport Vertex driver surely was saved a bit more fuel by comparison with Shamblin, who's had to go all in for the win today. But Philip Ansell is into pit lane, so he decides to come in. Perry and Liu are staying out. Well, the fuel tank can go quite long here at Road Atlanta, but the reason why I'm a bit bemused, ladies and gentlemen, I would have thought that Cuda Motorsport would have gone for the complete split, but they've decided to go earlier than Perry and Liu. Now, the fuel tank will likely last at least another 5 to 10 minutes, given the rate of fuel usage at this circuit, but does that mean that Perry perhaps thinks now he can outrun via the overcut? Well, if he can, Wilson Liu will be keeping in close company, but this is definitely a change of strategy, an unexpected one. There's Fairweather, made his way down the start for the straight. Where's Ansell? Well, he heads on out, and Ansell in the end had a bit of a longer stop by comparison. But Isaac Fairweather has found a bit of traffic since coming out the pit, so it hasn't quite worked out the way that Fairweather has wanted to. As I stumble over my W's, and well, Isaac Fairweather right now at the best part of the second behind Ansell, but he will close up, given the fact, of course, he has got his tyre temperature back now. Meanwhile, our other driver needs to get it back. But the reason why I stumbled again there, that was the car parts in the apex, the S's. I think that was John Becker there, and well, it almost made me lose all my words and have the gold to the table. Not quite sure what happened there, but John Becker will get a replay of that when we can. But we're not going to get any replays right now, because we're in the strategic period, as we see Max Chambers still bringing that Masalinskas behind him. Will he come into the pit lane this time? No, neither does. Into the pits, however, is Wilson Liu. So he comes in from second place overall in Pro. He's going to lose some positions here, but where does he come out in relation to Ansell and Fairweather? That is the $100 million question that we're waiting for the answer to. But where is he as he heads on down? So we look to the blimp view. Here's Ansell, meanwhile, make his way through 10A and 10B. So not too far away. It is a short pit stop here. We're only looking at 10 to 11 seconds. It will be one of the quickest pit stops we will see on the calendar in terms of stationary time. And Ansell make his way onwards. Liu starting to leave his pit box. And, well, he's nowhere near close. Ansell is going to clear him. Fairwell's going to come through very shortly as well. And for Wilson Liu, he's going to lose some net time here. Although, in reality, has he lost that much? I don't think he has. In fact, he's come out closer this time. So Wilson Liu has gained just a tiny bit in the pit lane. Only a couple of attempts, but it keeps him on the back of Fairweather and Ansell. So, in fact, Cuda Motorsport here, they're looking to be on the back foot. I think Wilson Liu right now is going to come from one end of the spectrum, and I think if he can put some pressure on it, given the traffic they're encountering, well, Tim Perry right now, if he can keep going, he needs to keep going right now. He does not need to come into the pit lane. He's got the clear track in front of him, and right now for Perry, this is all working out so well for him. And Sky Hitchler's making his way out the pit lane very shortly, I believe, so that's going to give him clear track as well. In fact, there's Hitchler behind, but Tim Perry right now has got all the space on the road. Could we see Tim Perry do the strategic jump here? Could he take the lead this race? Well, we're surely not too far away, but as he makes his way around, well, Wilson Liu on the back of Isaac Fairweather here, and will both have been caught up between some traffic. The former Christian Ablasso they've just passed, so they get a lap on Christian Ablasso there, running in 11th place in Pro behind. And, well, Philip Ansell has been able to open up a little bit of a gap to the tune of 1.6 seconds to Fairweather. Understandably right now, the pressure point is on Tim Perry. Where is he going to factor in? But whilst all this is playing out, Mark Kent and Dwayne Hoffman, they're still leading 1 and 2 in club. Hoffman's moved up, so Mikkel Salcuni's made a lot of progress, but remember, even Hauke has pitted, whereas Hoffman, Kent, and also Salcuni have yet to pit. So there are only 3 drivers in the club class who have yet to take their pit stops. Benjamin Massey is in, so the Inox Motorsport driver, he's done a brilliant job, to be fair, as Ben. He'll be smiling with his performance, given how much ground he's gained since the start. But where does he come back out? We'll have to wait and see. As Dwayne Hoffman heads down the hill, he's going to go a little bit longer, the full tilt virtual motorsport driver, and I suspect that FTVM's game plan and strategy is go the longest of everyone, at least for Hoffman. That's where he's at his best. If he goes the longest, he normally makes up a lot of time in the race. He has this uncanny ability to get the pace out the car the longer it goes in a stint, whereas other drivers seem to struggle towards the end of the stint. For Hoffman, his pace is right in the last 4 to 5 laps. But what this has done as a result of all the strategy is it has brought Andrew Fellows, Gianluca Rospo, Gareth Newton, James Boster all together. But to give you a quick update on this group, Rospo was at the head of it before his pit stop. He's actually lost out as a result of having a longer pit stop by 3 seconds versus Fellows. Gareth Newton, James Bostock are queuing up behind. So right now it is an absolute traffic jam of club drivers, and behind him is the club leader of Mark Kent, who's trying to put a lap on them. But understand right now, I think Mark will be thinking, do I come into the pits as a result, because I don't want to be in amongst all this? Well, it might be the wise call for Mark Kent. Yes, he deflects the pit lane. You see him coming down the hill. He's decided enough's enough here. I'm not going to try and weave my way through that. A smart call from Kent, no doubt about it. But meanwhile, Fellows at Rospo and Newton and Bostock all head up the hill. And a bit of a run wide there from Newton, and Bostock will be looking at this. And well, the GPX Sport Vertex driver, I think he'd like to get a little bit of a victory over Bostock if he can today. Even though he can't beat him in the championship, should Bostock have the results go his way in Mexico. But right now, I think Newton would like to end the season on the fault that he's been able to keep Bostock behind one more time. As the GPX Sport Vertex driver makes his way up towards turn number 6. Right now, at least, staying there. Remember, this man, real-life racing driver, real-life safety car driver at Alton Park on many a race day, and will sim race as well. Gareth Newton, definitely a man of many talents out there, and right now, definitely keeping a very safe and comfortable race. It's a bit of a poor run, coming out turns, a bit of power oversteer, and that's not going to help him. But Drayden Hoffman into pit lane as he heads on out. Where's Salcuni? Here he is. Where's Hauptke? Hauptke's still way back, and in fact, even Hauptke, 19 seconds was his pit stop. He had a longer stop, I suspect. Therefore, he's probably changed the tyre on that car. Meanwhile, Drayden Hoffman makes his way up, and he's going to return to third place in the club class. That is second on the strategy versus the rest of the club field. So for Drayden Hoffman right now, well, I suspect the privateer has had to come in to change a tyre because of the problem. He's probably really hurt what would be the rear left tyre, we suspect, on the Privateer 120 Corvette. And well, he's changed one tyre, but that has cost him an extra 7 seconds in the pit lane. But meanwhile, more pit stops playing out. We've got Peters V, 2, Smith and Lauren-Onis all in the pit. And well, they're all right now in a bit of a mad scramble. So we're still trying to thread the needle of what is most happening on circuit. We're trying to understand who is where. But meanwhile, fight for second place. This is overall and in pro. Chambers defending versus Zelinskas. Zelinskas going inside to outside. Chambers outside to inside. Chambers gets the upper hand, but surely now, if you want to throw a wrench in the works, you come into the pit lane. They both do together. They both wanted the move just before they came into the pit. And in Chambers and Zelinskas for now. But this is going to be a race on the fuel guns here. Meanwhile, Tim Perry, he finds a lot of cars in front. This is not Canusi out to 3M driver. He was looking so comfortable right now. He's all over the back of Quality 2, but the problem is through the S's, you can't expect to try to get out of the way through here because it's so tight for the S's on the racing line and there's no other line. But in the end, 2 does step aside immediately there. Perry having to roll with the punches on that one. Meanwhile, Oliver Kemp and Mark Kalsberg into the pits as well. Kalsberg coming in. And that would have been from the lead of the interclass, if my memory serves me correctly, with Kemp just behind. And was the way onwards here. Kemp making that swap versus what was Mark Kalsberg. And in fact, I believe we've actually had a change for the lead in the interclass that we haven't seen on camera. And here's a quick replay of it. Well, here we go back very quickly, ladies and gentlemen. And this was the lead of the interclass. This was back on lap 26, and it was under braking into the chicane. And, well, there it was none other. And then what was one of our pro drivers trying to come past Kalsberg, and Oliver Kemp just squeezes out the inside. So Kalsberg letting that go. But we come back live now, and Kalsberg comes it out, and Oliver Kemp stopped the road. In fact, Kalsberg comes directly out behind there, a lap down car from Verado Esports Edge Overlays. That's Salcuni. And as a result, Oliver Kemp now, in theory, is your leader in the interclass here strategically for Concord Motorsport. But Kemp has made that ground. Oh, it's good for him we caught that pass because we didn't quite realise it had happened earlier on. But meanwhile, into the pits now is Tim Perry. So Perry is in, and this is the last of the stoppers. Where is Ansell? There he is. We look to the blimp camera then. So Ansell coming down the hill. Perry, meanwhile, in his pit box stationary at the moment. This is going to be close, but right now, how much time has Perry saved? He's had a very short stop. Meanwhile, here comes Ansell. I think Ansell's going to take it back. Where's Fairweather? This is going to be so close to second place right now as they head up the hill. I think Perry's got it. Yes, Tim Perry has cleared. Where's Isaac Fairweather? Moves it up to second place. So now, if Perry can get the hammer down here and get away from Fairweather and not be under pressure on this lap or the next one, will it be Philip Ansell? Can Tim Perry chase down the leading man in pro, the man who's going for his 8th win of the season today? Can Perry finally take the first win, or is second the furthest he's going to go? Well, by damn, is he going to say he'll be going all in for this one, and we'll have to see what he can do all the way as he wakes his way around. But meanwhile, a bit further back, Vitus Andrus battling with Kevin Smith for 7th place in the interclass. He goes onto the brakes there. The SRP Motorsport driver looking to the inside to outside, and as they roll the way out right now, Kevin Smith defending hard here, and Andrus Kevicius has got the better grip on those tyres. Around the outside he goes, but Smith defends. There's Andrus Kevicius runs out of road and will ride his way up towards turn number 1. It's going to be 2 wide between the two once again. They like this earlier on, and right now Kevin Smith on the inside. Andrus Kevicius runs a little bit deep, just about keeps in the white lines, and then up the hill, Smith on the inside at turn number 3. Surely, oh, they touch. Smith rolls backwards and he rolls back into Andrus Kevicius, and as a result they both go off their own, and Smith, when he comes out the better one of the two, but neither one is fair. The Roses, and well, the red mist descends on both of them there. And I think both drivers there a bit annoyed with the way that's played out, and understandably, I think right now both will there argue their case, but I think the stewards room will definitely be calling them both in, and they'll both be being told off for that one. But meanwhile, we can't draw on that for now, because here's Tim Perry, there's Isaac Fairweather, and Fairweather on the attack here as we ride on board with the 318 driver, staying really close as the Australian, as the Cuda Motorsports driver staying absolutely on the attack versus Perry. Now Ansell at this point 2 seconds up the road, you can see him running off in the distance there. Perry needs to try and find a way to catch him, but has Ansell with holding up an ace in his sleeve, which is he's got the pace to just simply pull away in this race. And if so, well, Perry right now has got the unenviable task to try to hold off Isaac Fairweather to spoil the 1-2 for Cuda Motorsports. But if anybody can do it, Perry can, and Wilson Liu is 3.5 seconds behind. He's not been able to stay with this lead group. The pace is really Ansell, Fairweather and Perry all together, and then Liu is around a 1/10.5 a lap slower on their very best lap times, and that's made the difference for Liu, unfortunately, and the fact he's having to settle for fourth, but he won't give up, because much like what happened at Interlagos last time out, anything could happen before the checker flag, and it normally does in motorsport, and we'll have to wait and see what's to come. But Fairweather right now, at least, going with 10 minutes to go, on to lap 40, these drivers roar, and right now Fairweather definitely, it feels as though he's got a big chore in front of him, and that is to find his way into second place versus Perry. But Tim Perry right now in that Ferrari, very different style of car, a car that's less about the traction through low speed corners, more about the medium speed control, and right now Tim Perry getting a lot out of that Ferrari, but understandably Fairweather looking like a hawk here for just the one opportunity, and when he sees it, he's going to go for it. Meanwhile, further back, Gianluca Rosberg and Gareth Newton still fighting for the 6th place in the club class. Newton has found his way ahead, as James Bostock. Andrew Fellows, meanwhile, has lost out. So we're going to get a replay of what's happened between them in short order. We've got a few replays lined up, including the battle between Andres Kevicius and Kevin Smith that went a little bit haywire, but this is what it looked like. So remember, this was the two of them battling the way through turn 1 up into 2 and 3, and as they made the way side by side up the hill, under braking here, well, I think both drivers wanted that line on the outside, and Kevin Smith tried to come across. I think he's just come across a tiny bit too much there versus Andres Kevicius, and I think it's some red tempers between the two of them afterwards. Well, understanding, I think both drivers will need a bit of a cool down after that one, but I think the actual incident itself would be considered a bit of a racing incident, but the way they handled it afterwards, perhaps not, unfortunately, but still, that's what that camera angle suggests, but there's plenty more stories to that. Meanwhile, we had this on lap 36. And this was Gianluca Rosberg, at the time being chased by James Bostock. This was for 5th place in the club class, and as Bostock up the inside here, and the GPX Sport Onyx driver went all in on the brakes, Rosberg on the outside, and Bostock took that place off him there. Did he get it done? No, in fact, he didn't get it done initially, so Bostock overcooked the chicane, and it was only as they came down the hill, Rosberg came back at him, so when did it end? And as they rolled the way up towards turn number 1, I think we are going to see the rest of the move. Here it is on replay footage, and this was Bostock a lap later at the same sequence of corners, and well, this time he had a second chance at it. He decided to use a retry, and came down the hill, and Bostock up the inside of Rosberg, and that is how he took 5th place in the club class. But great battle in between the two of them, and he finally got it done that time, got it all glued together, and made sure to force Rosberg to have the door shut in his face. Bostock a little bit cheeky there, I think, doing it as late as he would be allowed to do so, but I think Rosberg will say to him afterwards, just be careful about that one. Meanwhile, we then had this for Gareth Newton a lap later, and was on the run down the back straight. The Corvette driver had the better exit. Rosberg, by comparison, not the best traction there. I think some power oversteer coming out of turn number 7, and Newton in the end just gradually glided his way past with straight line speed supremacy. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's make our way back to your live racing. Because as we do, Rosberg and Newton still fight each other here as they cover down and towards the chicane this time. 7 minutes still to go. And well, as they make their way through, we do say hello there to the Buster 689. I do wonder whether that's Ben Altrier in the YouTube chat potentially for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, who says, yeah, Full Tilt. And well, good to see you, Buster. And if you are Ben, well, my memory does go well. If you're not Ben, well, I'm sure you're somebody else there for the FTVM team. Feel free to let us know if you so desire to do so. But as the drivers make their way on around, meanwhile, well, Newton, Rosberg and Fellows all together here, still fighting over that 6th place in class, but it's Fellows now who's trying to go on the attack. And I think here Gareth Newton trying to help his teammate out, given the fact that Newton can't seem to shake off the Italian, who's definitely proven to be a bit of a menace behind, but they're so closely matched, these three, which is what we love to see. Meanwhile, after Oliver Kemp has made that move to lead the interclass before his pit stop, but right now he's still leading the class, 6 seconds ahead of Mark Calsbear. Calsbear's pace has taken a slight dip since about halfway into this race. So again, we are seeing that slight weakness of Calsbear, which is his mid to late race pace that's being exposed. But right now, 2nd and 3rd, keep in mind that Jordan Chamberlain is running 6th in the interclass. This would be a decent result for the team. It's not the win. Kemp has done his job, essentially, to make sure the interwin does not go to a Cuda Academy driver if he can bring this home, but they will still be 2nd and 3rd. They'll be happy with that. But meanwhile, at the front of the field, look at this. This is Ansell. There's Perry. Look at Fairweather all over the back right now. And well, understandably here for Tim Perry, this is not where you want to be. He has literally got a hard place coming up behind him, but he's got the rock in front of him at Ansell. And Perry right now is going to go defensive at every corner here as Fairweather looks around the outside, trying to go for the switchback through 6 into 7. Doesn't quite work out in the altitude for him. Esports drive right now. Well, the problem is every time Fairweather makes one of these little pokey moves, he just has to go slightly defensive. It just hurts his line slightly. And Fairweather's not trying to go for the move right now. What he's trying to do is be really annoying to Perry. He's been one of those drivers right now who's just trying to look for it, trying to make Perry go offline, so then that way he can get a better run out of the corner like this down towards turn number 10. Does he go all on the brakes in? No, he doesn't, but he forces Perry to have to go defensive, and this buys Ansell time. And gives Ansell the opportunity to take that lead a little bit further away. 5 minutes to go, because that Ferrari right now, Tim Perry, it is looking so quick over distance, particularly when he gets the draft of Ansell's car. And when clear out, I can imagine they're about the same to on pace right now. But when he's got the draft, he closes by a couple of attempts a lap. Isaac Fairweather doing such a great job right now of staying so close behind. And if he can't pass, at least being a nuisance and making sure that second place is the furthest that Perry will go. Meanwhile, we come back to your club leader, Mark Kent, on the back of Jordan Shamblin. Now, I think here the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport driver, as much as he would like to pass Shamblin for 15th place, I think the thought process is going to be there's no value in doing so just stay behind instead. And what we can confirm, here is Dwayne Hoffman, currently second of your club drivers, 3.1 seconds ahead of Ivan Hauptke. Now, Hauptke is closing on that last lap by a second, he did, but we believe by about half a second lap at the moment. It will be close. If Hauptke can maintain the rate of closure from the previous lap, he will be attacking Dwayne Hoffman on their final tour of the circuit today. But that is how fine the margins are going to be. Hauptke right now has got to pull out all the stops if he wants that second place spot, and the privateer would be making it back-to-back second place finishes after losing out to the win at Interlagos. He's going to lose on it today, and that because Mark Kent was able to come back through. But Hauptke right now doing a phenomenal job here, no doubt about it. As they roar the way down the back stretch, well, right now you can see his target off in the distance, but understandably that target is just a little bit too far away for him to be able to get a slipstream at least at this time. But meanwhile, back to Perry versus Fairweather. Up the hill they go. Perry goes a bit deep at 1. Fairweather's only going to need one chance of this. He's going to look around the outside to inside. Oh, they touch! They make contact, and both Perry and also Fairweather into the barrier together. And it's Interlagos all over again for Tim Perry. It went wrong there in the battle for second place. And here today, it's gone wrong once again. Will Fairweather toast the pit lane? Perry right now, the wounded car. He's going to try and get it to the pit lane, but I don't know if he's going to be able to make it. But suddenly, Wilson Liu. And right now, I said it earlier, I don't believe it. I think I put the commentator's curse on this for Tim Perry. For Wilson Liu, I said earlier on the fact he's not going to give up because he'll never know whether he can get second or not until the checkered flag. But second place now falls into his hands. He's 7.5 seconds behind Philip Ansell. And once again, well, for Wilson Liu, his Mr. Second Place reputation is not going to escape him. But goodness me, for Tim Perry and Isaac Fairweather, that's not the way we wanted it to end whatsoever. But what exactly happened? Here's a quick replay to explain, ladies and gentlemen. So this was coming out of the final corner on towards turn number 1. They went up the hill, and well, 2 wide they went up, and Fairweather had the better run through the inside. Perry went a little bit deep, but over the crest here. What went wrong? It was under braking, and Fairweather came across, and I think in the end Perry just could not brake in time without tapping the rear of the Porsche. Oh, goodness me. Well, the question will be in that instant whether Fairweather came across too late to cover off the position and therefore not forced literally to the sense of he wanted to make the contact, but whether he essentially forced Tim Perry into a position whereby he couldn't react in time under braking, or whether Perry broke too late when he could have broken earlier and has hit Fairweather as a result of late braking. That will be the big question there, but that's going to be a difficult one for the stewards to pick apart, and either way that goes, I can understand why the stewards aren't always popular, ladies and gentlemen. I can tell you that the work they do, it is thankless and tireless work. They do an incredible job here at SimRacing International. But meanwhile, back to your live pictures, 2 minutes to go. David Payne has got up to Mark Calsbear. Now, what do you do here for Cuda Academy? Do you swap the two of them round? 9 that Payne right now, if he takes that second place, he will practically level the score to his teammate in the championship, but of course they won't gain, in theory, as much ground because Jordan Shamblin, the championship leader, he's ahead firstly of Calsbear, then Payne. It's a tough one to call here, but I think Cuda Academy are going to play the game of let Calsbear take that second place and simply put the priority on him. And to be the lead contender for the crown. Of course, Jordan Chandler being in 6th place, but they will gain that crown, and Payne backing off there. So Payne making it very clear, I think, he is going to play the number 2 driver today. So they've got their orders, and I think it is the right call here. They do need to back a driver, but understandably, with Chandler in 6th place, Payne will have an outside chance and just flash his headlights behind there and making it clear every step of the way he is not going to fight this. But meanwhile, with all the racing that's going on, 45 seconds left on the clock, and the battle for 6th place in club between Newton, Rosberg and Fellows has calmed down a little bit. They're separated by 9 tenths from car to car, and as we can see there right now, it's Newton, Rosberg and Fellows together. No change between us. They roar the way down the hill. As they do, with 30 seconds left on the clock, we're not too far away from seeing the checker flag. We are onto our white flag lap, I do believe. Here is Philip Ansell right now. He's got the long stretch, and then 3 corners between him and what will be his 8th win of the season. But what a drive it's been for him, no doubt about it. And all these battles calming down right now. Well, you couldn't make up the end of the story, I could tell you that. But Oliver Kemp right now leading for Concord Motorsports in the Interclass. This race has definitely come into his own, and right now, well, it's been another masterclass for Concord Motorsports, but this time for Kemp rather than for Shamblin, as he heads towards the finish line. But the clock strikes 0, and that means for this man, 2 corners to go. And for Philip Ansell, well, what an impeccable record he's had as he roars away from the final corner. For Kuda Motorsport, it's an 8th winning pro of the season, and for Philip Ansell, it's perhaps his best one of the season, no doubt about it. Wilson Liu comes over runner-up 2nd place, and the We Pay for Ed Esports drive will keep a healthy gap to Ansell going into the season finale, and it'll be Max Chambers who just holds off Ramos Salinskas for 3rd place. Oliver Kemp, meanwhile, he's got a bit of time to see his checker flag, but we do have Dwayne Hoffman coming on through to take runner-up in the club class ahead of Ivan Hautko, who returns to the podium once again. Great job of the privateer behind the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport driver, and then we will very shortly see Oliver Kemp coming through and to bring on home what will be the Inter victory here today for Concord Motorsport, and doing what he needed to for himself, but also for his teammate George Shamblin. Mark Halsbear, he will come over very shortly to bring home 2nd place in the Interclass, just ahead of his teammate David Payne for Kuda Academy, and it'll be Joris Petersveen 4 seconds behind before we do get to quality 2. There'll be a further 4 seconds adrift in 9th place. Benjamin Massey comes on through. What a drive from Massey to go from 39th to 10th for Inox Motorsport and 6th in class. Jan Linsky Hitchner will come through then. John Shamler just behind. And for Mark Kent, it's another win for the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport driver. It's the win that's escaped him for some time. It is going to be none other than his 4th win of the season. And with that win, that brings him into the hunt for the club crown, but he will still be the outside contender. Devinus Lorinonis, meanwhile, coming on home in 15th place, 8th in pro. A solid effort from him after starting from the pit lane. And Vidas Andres Kevichus will be your last lead that finisher there in 16th place. And well, what an end to the race, ladies and gentlemen. My goodness, Road Atlanta today. It was fast. It was furious, and I think Kitty's man there absolutely summarised it perfectly, which is Friday nights never disappoint, and our GTE drivers here today absolutely proving clinical in the racing action they've delivered. What a race! But Philip Ansell in the end, being flanked by his Kuda Academy teammates there, or his sister team teammates, we should say, of Payne and also Carlsberg. Well, Ansell here today, he had so much pressure on him. He had Isaac Fairweather as his rear guard, but Tim Perry was able to find a way between the 2 of them. But then, unfortunately, the contact between Fairweather and Perry putting them both out of contention for the win on the podium, and Philip Ansell kept his cool and made sure he didn't make a mistake. But as it all cool and calm down, Wilson Liu 2nd place today in the Pro Class. I don't think he's going to quite believe it given the way it was going as he looks to park up with the We Pay 300 Esports cars. In fact, follows them on the round, and I do believe that's going to be his teammate there of Cronley 2 who he's waited with, and will Max Chambers bringing home 3rd place in that Pro Class. The Concord Motorsport driver, a huge result for him. Fend off Arma Salinskas non-stop. And well, as they do decide to make the way up the ramp, they're celebrating style, although the budget for Concord Motorsports cars, I think, being exceeded there. And well, Dwayne Hoffman, meanwhile, keeping it cool. He's got Nathan Healy just behind him, and Mark Kent, meanwhile, a little bit further back. But for Dwayne today, what a drive from him, coming all the way through to bring on home that 2nd place in the club class. And it's a 1-2 once again for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport. They found a way to beat Ivan Hautke, and it was on strategy for Hoffman, it was on pace for Kent. But Mark Kent taking that win, a very important one, and it means we now have a 3-way fight for the club crown going to Mexico. It will, of course, be Gareth Newton, who I suspect will still be leading, but it's expected he will lose the lead, subject to the fact he's not on the grid at next round. And then we'll see Dwayne Hoffman, Mark Kent, and they will be sandwiched in amongst what will be James Bostock for that club championship crown. But as everyone cools them down, let's take a look at those race results, subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries. An absolutely epic and entertaining round number 9 for the SimRacing International GTE Championship Season 2 then from Road Atlanta today, as brought to you on iRacing. And Philip Ansell, well, he definitely made sure to keep everybody on their toes at the front of the field, but he was the one who did his utmost to make sure that he took his 8th win, and he did exactly that for Cuda Motorsport by 5.8 seconds. Wilson Liu run up there with a surprise twist right at the end, the path being cleared for him for We Pay 300 Esports, and a first 7 seconds behind. Max Chambers for 3rd place, a return to the podium for the Concord Motorsport driver, and well, what a podium it has been for him, no doubt about it, and it's another 3rd here. He's already had 2 this season, and he makes it a 3rd one now. Selenskas 4th there for SLB Motorsport by Lind Vega, and the 4 GT driver just could not find a way to get back ahead of Chambers, who just dug in enough versus the American machinery, but Oliver Kemp taking 5th place overall, and for him, the win in the Interclass. A very happy win at that, and where that stands in terms of his performances, I do believe, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be what is his first win of the season in the Interclass, unless I'm mistaken, and a huge win, no doubt about that. And, of course, making sure that Cuda Academy could not take that win with Mark Calsbear and David Payne completing the Interpodium 6th and 7th overall. Joris Petersveen, 8th there, 5th in the Pro Class. Another good haul of points to the GPX Sport Xenon try, given how it started and how it's ended. I think you'll be very pleased with that. And Quality 2, 9th there for We Pay 300 Esports. Couldn't quite stay with the top 3 in the Interclass, but made sure to be well clear of the rest of the field, with Benjamin Massey completed the top 10 for Inox Motorsport, and what a drive coming all the way through from 39th place to that 7th place. That in itself, honestly, we don't give out Driver of the Day awards, but Benjamin Massey right now is my Driver of the Day, because he went completely through the field and just played it incredibly smart. Jan Lins, 11th there for Gazek's racing team, best of the rest overall, and 5th in Inter, head of Kai Hitch of Leopard Esports, who a small mistake earlier on scuppered his chances of a top 5 in the Pro Class, no doubt about it. George Shablin, despite his drive-through penalty, was able to finish 13th, and that will be 6th place in Inter, so not too much damage being done there. And then we do see none other than, as we say hello to Ben Massey in the YouTube chat, and he's very happy with that performance. And Ben, if you didn't quite catch any moments ago, you're definitely my driver of the day today for that performance from 39th to 10th. Well done to you for that. That was very impressive. But carried away through the field, George Shablin in 13th place, and 14th place there for Mark Kent, your club winner for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport. And what a drive from him as well. The only club tried to finish on the lead lap, but to be fair for Mark today, everything seemed to go his way. Daryl Slorino is 15th there. SME Motorsport by Lind Vega, head of his sister team driver of Vidas Andruskevicius, and he was the last lead lap finisher, Andruskevicius, with being a lap down to Isaac Fairweather, also to Christian Ablasser. Dwayne Hoffman, your runner-up in club, were a brilliant drive for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport to confirm that 1-2, their 3rd of the season, and even Hauck could just miss it out on the 2nd place spot in club, but ran off the podium in the club and 20th overall. Outside the top 20, in 21st, it was Max Wheeler for Freewheeler Racing, who made his way gradually up through the club and into drivers in the race. In his Ferrari, ahead of Bruno Key, and then we did see Kevin Smith, James Bostock and Gaff Newton there completed the run to 25th. Newton managed to hold off Gianluca Rospo and Andrew Fellows to line, with Brian Beardsworth and Mikhail Salcuni enjoyed a good battle earlier on. And behind the run of Esports Veg Overlay Stride, it was another lap down to Tim Perry there after his late incident with Fairweather, and Jaden Innes just outside the top 30. He was 2 laps down as well. It was 5 down to Victor Shimaro, and then 9 laps down to Nathan Healy, who I do believe will be your last classified finisher of this race. And then non-finishes will be classified for John Ludbrook, Clyde Vella, John Becker, Gavin Corby, Max Dean, Mark Hutchinson, and Ryan Cassidy. But meanwhile, we go to the classes, because this is where the points are made and paid. And starting with Pro, an 8th win in 9 rounds. All points are wins for this season for Philip Ansell. And for Cuda Motorsport, he hasn't quite taken the crown, but he's given himself the best possible opportunity to do so. But remember, Wilson Liu finished run-up in the end for We Pay 300 Esports. A bit unconventional the way he got that 2nd place, much like at Interlagos, but it seems like Ansell is destined to win, and Liu is destined to finish 2nd no matter what. Meanwhile, 3rd, Max Chambers there for Concord Motorsport, holding off Selenskas and being promoted to the podium after late incident for Perry and Fairweather. But to be fair, I think he would have been just about happy to finish in at 5th place, but taking that 1st is going to make it all the more sweet to hold off the Ford GT driver. Joris Petersveen was behind them to the tune of the best part of 37 seconds for GPX Sport Xenon, 5 seconds ahead of Benjamin Massey, 6th place there for Inox Motorsport. And I do believe for Massey, hold up the phone on this one, ladies and gentlemen, is that his best result of the season? I believe it is for Massey. So in the end, his best result has come all the way from the back of the field. How about that? That is an absolute accolade to take for this season, if nothing else. The man who was, of course, our Inter champion, although it was known as Pro in Season 1, well, he's moved up to Pro this season, been learning along the way, early, and that definitely shows the culmination of his learning so far today. Got a hitch at 7th there for Leopard Esports with her 3 seconds behind, and it was then 12 seconds back to Devidas Lorinonis, and then we did see a lap down there. Isaac Fairweather and Christian Ablas to complete the top 10, and in 11th place, Max Wheeler, the last of the finishers on the lap down. 2 laps down, Tim Perry with that unfortunate late retirement, but he will be classified as a finisher, and behind him is Altitude Free Esports teammate, who is a non-finisher, Mark Hutchinson, of that instant into turn 1 in his battle with Arma Salinskas, and Rian Castillo losing out on the opening lap. Meanwhile, in the interclass, we could see today that nothing was going to stop Oliver Kemp from taking the victory for Concord Motorsports. Beating the Kudo Academy drivers of Mark Carlsberg and David Payne, with Payne playing the role of number 2 to Carlsberg, but they have both gained significant ground on Jordan Shamlin, who took 6th after his drive-through penalty. That was his penalty coming into the round. Between them, Quantity 2 and Jan Lintz, with Lintz getting closer and closer to the We Pay for Edit Esports strike in the late stages, but he needed about 3 to 4 more laps in order to be able to make the potential move happen. And then Shamlin took 6th ahead of Vidas Andruskevicius for the SLB Motorsports, and it was a lap down there to Kevin Smith, who was full of battling no matter what. Victor Shimura, unfortunately, with that early instant, saw himself taken out of what could have been another chance at a podium, but he was 5 laps down at the finish for Enosis Esports. Then we did see the retirements of John Lundberg and Clyde Vella, unfortunately, and that's the way the race went for them. Meanwhile, in the club class, last but by no means least, here we could see a win and another 1-2 with it for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsports. Mark Kent, your winner. Run-up, Dwayne Hoffman. Hoffman beating Ivan Hauptke on strategy. Kent beating Hauptke on pace. But Ivan Hauptke will still be very happy to be back on the podium once again. And the priority in his Corvette is not to be underestimated. And Mexico, can he take his first win of the season? We'll have to wait and see. Bruno Key missed out on the podium, but for We Pay for Edit Esports, still a very happy result there in 4th place. Making sure to get the upper hand of the GPX Simsport pair of James Bostock and Gareth Newton for Onyx and Vertex respectively, and Gianluca Rospo was 7th there. Couldn't quite take the top 5, but the Deep Motorsport driver was right in the hunt for it. GPX's were Onyx's Andrew Fellows and Brian Beardsworth for 8th and 9th, and then it was 10th place for Mikel Salcuni, who the Italian driver in the end for Rhino Esports with Edge Overlays after a good start, fell back a little bit and just round off the top 10 ahead of Jaden Innes, who was 2 laps down. And then it was Nathan Healy, 9 laps down there, but classified as a finisher for the FTVM, and we did see non-finishes for John Becker, Gary Corby and Max Dean. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that completes our rundown of the results. And it completes all the racing here today at the Michelin Raceway at Road Atlanta. But as we get ready to wrap up proceedings in the US state of Georgia, there's just that one question, of course, some post-round interviews. So don't fret, we're going to get ready for those. We're back in approximately 5 minutes' time for our interviews. And I wonder who we'll have in the interview room today. Well, stay with us and you'll find out very shortly. And it's lights out and away we go for our season opener as Sardply gets a good start, but look alongside him and you'll see there Milton Tomlinson Dennis immediately go on the attack into the braking zone. 1 drive into the grass already, that's Mikey Story, but 3 wide they come into the opening corner. That's a bold move there. William Humphrey makes the place as they make the way through in towards turn number 2. I think the Altitude 3M Esports driver here might just be fancying his chances once again as they come into the braking zone now for turn number 1, and as they make the way from right into left, well, Hayden Miller here side by side with him. They'll go all the way through to turn number 3, and Saunders does take the place there. That's for overall position, not for pro position. Saunders is the pro leader, but he goes a bit deep there in 3 to the inside of 4 then, and Miller right now enjoying this. Saunders enjoying it. A little bit of rub and contact between the two of them, but nothing wrong with a bit of bump and grind between the two Fords, for the Ford and the Corvette, the 2 Americans I should say. And
with those 2 Evo drivers in front of them, they're just, you know, they're realistically in a completely different race. They're just a barrier up towards the likes of Rubino and Wendell. Oh, there's Rubino going off the road, and here comes James Bostock, past 1, past 2. This is a great little move from James.
Oh, and look behind him as well. Hardiak, up high, he decides to come back down low. But Denny Plurger has really lost a lot of ground here. He's lost 7 places since the start of this race in that green Porsche. But look at this, for the lead, Hammond wants it. He's gone back down the inside. He got off the brakes again to let the car down the inside of Rob Mackay. And you said Rob was going to be clinging on at the front. And now he's clinging on to second. Great move by Lewis Hammond. Really good committed stuff. And look, down the inside, Richard White. He wants a piece of this in the Porsche. He's got James Bostock.
And it's lights out and away we go here as Mirko Bortolotti goes exactly on the green. And as they roar the way down towards turn number 1, Martin Statman side by side with him. But look behind, Tim Perry under pressure, Miguel Leon immediately. As the Enosis Esports driver tries to put the pressure on. Further back, we've got 3, 4 wide. They're all in the crush as they come through the opening bank. Look back for the rear of your second place runner, Statman. And Statman right now for the Gazex Racing team. What he's trying to do here, I think now, is just hold on to second. And if needed, he may have to act as a bit of a buffer and perhaps sacrifice a little bit of his race for the race leader here. Although Bortolotti, to be fair, I think might be holding some pace back. But here comes Lux in the tow. In towards what we roller coaster they come with the Virginian corkscrew. It's left into right very quickly here as they both make the way. And it's too wide on entry. But Lux gets ahead. It's up into second now, as it will be Martin Statman falling down to third. But Callum Lux does clear another one. And now only one car is between him and an opportunity of victory here, which is Perry going to make the move, or I'm going to have to make the move for him? Well, there's your answer. Perry's going to go on the inside here of Dean into the braking zone. Edwards gets to watch it from the popcorn seat view. Perry there being too wide on exit. Dean's going to try and hang around the outside. Does Edwards think about going up the inside as well? He gets himself ready for it in case there's contact, but there's not. Perry there being fair. Dean tucks back in behind. Lovely move there from Tim Perry. And I think meanwhile Beardsworth will hope they don't get close enough in time, as Beardsworth's going to look up the inside. He goes all in, and it's from very far back. He gets it stopped, however, and Beardsworth there nails the move, but Tillerson's going to come back at him up the hill. Does he go in on the brakes here? This is bold to do it on the inside. No, he does not. And Brian Beardsworth at the end, he gets it wrong. He goes out wide at turn number 6. Tillerson's going to be too wide with him, but too wide they're going to turn 7. Tillerson goes to the switch back there. 9 is no way through, and in the end they come down towards turn number 8. Well, there Tillerson backs off. He lets Hutchinson go around the outside, but is it the right call? Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time to kick off our post-round interviews. And what better way to get ourselves started than from hearing from the man today who took overall victory and with it what is his 8th win of the season. Joining me now in the interview room, it is none other than Philip Ansell. Philip, good evening to you. What a drive today. I mean, you've had 8 wins now, excluding, of course, the result that has been dropped in round number 5, but 8 wins on the bounce as far as the championship's concerned. The saying tells me this might have been your hardest earned one yet.
I mean, the amount of sweat that has been dripping down my back this race was, yeah, nothing that I've experienced before. I mean, driving in a room that's 29 degrees is it's definitely not nice, but yeah, and I certainly had to fight for it. And I mean, it was basically all the way up until the end where, you know, Perry kept both me and Isaac under pressure. But yeah, I mean, we all know what happened there in the end. And obviously, it wasn't the result we would have wanted as a team. I mean, Isaac drove a brilliant race, had a good strategy involved. But, you know, those things happen in the end. So. But no, obviously, I mean, Perry was rapid tonight, especially with that straight line speed on the back straight. I mean, as soon as he was in tow of us, you know, it was basically just check the mirrors, make sure that we had a gap. If not, well, we knew what was coming. So, but no, I mean, obviously, a win's a win. And it's definitely, you know, given me some good points in the championship. So just keep on building from there. I mean, we've still got one more race left. So it's not done yet, and obviously there's a teams championship still to play for. So we want to try and maximise everything, really.
Oh, 100%. There's still plenty to play for, like you say, and one round to go. But coming back to the qualifying session, we did see you take pole position quite early on in the session, or set the real benchmark, and your teammate Isaac Fairweather in the end was able to join you on the front row. I mean, this circuit, Road Atlanta, it's one that most, if not everybody, knows, given the 6 hours of Road Atlanta, or the Petit Le Mans every year, I should say, in GT3, and it's always typically on the GTE schedule. Is this why you're personal favourites? Because you just seem to be in a world of your own.
I hate it. Like, I despise this track, genuinely. Like, I don't do the Petit Le Mans for one reason, and it's because of the curbs around here. And, you know, the nature of the track. I mean, normally I'm a GT3 driver, so I have some very bad memories of both both of the prototypes lapping you around here. And I mean, we saw some of that tonight when, we came up on quicker cars or on slower cars. And, had to try and manage to get around them. But, I mean, try being fair with them, not doing any stupid moves, because obviously, I know how it feels to be taken out around here when, you're just minding your own business. And but no, I would definitely not say it's a track that I enjoy, especially with the lack of practice I had in for this round. But I mean, yeah, it was just about adapting, really, to be honest. Make some small adjustments in the setup when we got into the actual race session, and from there on, it was just enough in the end to get pole position, and then obviously it puts you in a good position to save your tyres maybe a little bit more in the clean air at the front. But still, it was definitely not a race I was expecting to be running away with, and certainly showed that throughout the race with both Wilson and Perry being right on the tail of our train at the front. So no, definitely made it so I had to fight for it.
Oh, 100%. You had to fight every step of the way. And of course, it was always going to be a train with the four of you in clear air. But just tell us a little bit, because this circuit is such a short and a very quick lap as well. What was it like having to negotiate traffic for the opening stint in particular? Because it looked as though, as much as it could help you break the train open, it could also bring the train back together.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's you got to manage that pretty decently, I would say. I mean, both from your own personal point of view, where you want to go through the traffic as quickly as possible, but like I said earlier, the S's in particular are, you don't go too wide around there unless you are completely alongside another driver. So in that sense, it's about managing it, and it did almost cost me in the end when in the last stint, really, when I caught up to a BMW in the S's, and I dropped about 1.3 seconds. So then both Tim and Isaac got right back in my slipstream. So obviously that wasn't great for me, but at the same point, we got a little bit lucky in the first stint as well. Sometimes when lap cars got out the way for you and then blocked the driver behind. So it certainly was way more challenging than, for example, some of the other races we've had in the season where you haven't been lapping as many people in that sense. And then obviously that was probably the reason as well why we decided to pit a little bit earlier, to try and get away from that traffic. So it worked in the end. Gap was a little bit bigger than when I pitted. So, but no, it certainly was a big aspect in the race, really, to keep in mind.
Oh, indeed, a huge aspect of traffic. And we did see Isaac go first, and you went shortly after, whereas meanwhile, Wilson Liu and also Tim Perry went longer. Perry went the longest of everybody. On that, it looked as though it worked out. Were there any doubts in your mind it wouldn't work, given when you came out? You looked as though you had clear road, at least for the first couple of laps.
Yeah, no, I mean, Isaac went early, decided to go for it. He felt like it was the right time to go. He saw a gap on the track map and thought, it was time. He got out in a bit of cleaner. Then I wanted to box the next lap right after him. Got blocked on the pit entry, so I had to stay out for one more lap. Caught up to the back of 2 lap cars. It cost me a little bit of time, but then did end up pitting pretty soon after that, and I was not the luckiest. Got traffic right on exit, but it wasn't too bad in the end. So, and obviously, had to then run with a little bit more fuel in the beginning of the second stint, which probably wore out my fronts quite a bit. But yeah, no, definitely made it in the end, but it was tight with Perry. But thankfully, I got a little bit, kept the pace up in the second stint, and it was enough then to get the 1 second gap at least. From there on, it was just trying to manage it, but yeah, it certainly wasn't, an easy decision to make.
Oh, 100% not. And in the heat at the moment, literally the smallest of mistakes on decision can have big consequences. But today, no bad consequences, all positive ones as far as your championship is concerned. And it means now you go to Mexico in a week's time for a 1.5-hour endurance finale with a perfect record as far as the championship points are concerned. You haven't quite sealed the deal in the Pro Championship, but you are the comfortable favourite. I have to ask, what are your thoughts going to Mexico?
Yeah, it's a decent track, I would say. It's a new track as well, not one that I think a lot of people have experience at. And I wouldn't say I'm an expert at it, but you know, I know where the track goes at least from my prior experiences on the F1 game. But it's going to be an interesting track. It's going to be a real power track. I think so. We're going to probably see the Fords and the Ferraris really shine there, especially down the long main straight. So I wouldn't say it's going to be an easy race for us in the Porsches. We're going to probably have to run inverted wings, so we're probably going to create some lift on the main straight to try and go as quickly as possible. But now we're going to cook up something like we've done all season long, us in Coupe. So we're going to be ready for it.
Oh, brilliant. We look forward to seeing what package you and the Coup de Motorsport and Academy team bring to Mexico to see if you can end the season on the high in the teams, the Pro, and, of course, the Inter Championship. But just before we do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a mention or a shout-out to on the broadcast?
I'll have to give it to him this time, David Payne. I would say the pole position was brought to you by David Payne's towing service, so he'll get this one this time. Got me a 10th to go ahead of Isaac in the end, so that was a very important one internally.
Oh, I'm sure he'll appreciate the shout out, Philip, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview, as it always is. Congratulations on your 8th win of the season. By no means easy, and one of your hardest earned. I'll let you go take a shout and cool off, because I can imagine how hot it must be in the sim room. But thank you for your time, and we'll see you at Mexico in a week's time.
Thank you very much, Paul. Take care.
So here now from a very hot and definitely exhausted Philip Ansell today, the Pro driver who converted pole to victory. And we'll give a shout out there to David Payne for his towing services in qualifying, given the 10th that put him ahead of his teammate of Isaac Fairweather. But mentioned the race there, it really did come down to small margins. In the train, the traffic worked out, sometimes it didn't, and all the way through having to constantly micromanage the tyres and make sure the fuel could go long. I also mentioned the fact that when Isaac Fairweather came into the pits, he saw a gap and he went for it and it worked out. Well, Ansell wanted to do the same shortly afterwards, but couldn't because he couldn't get into the pit lane with him having to make his way past lap down cars. So he had to go one lap longer compared to what he wanted, but it still worked out. And then it played out the way where Fairweather and Perry came together, of course, towards the very end, but still the pressure was constantly on to Philip Ansell. He could not take a breather until, unfortunately, they both came to untimely demise in the race. But it just goes to show you that for Philip Ansell, yes, he may have a perfect record as far as the championship points are concerned, but to get that perfect record, he's had to absolutely drive on the limit, and that's why he's looking forward to Mexico and seeing if he can end the season on a high, just not for himself, but also for the Coup de Motorsport and Coup de Academy teams. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we've got more interviews to come. We'll be right back for our second one of the day. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we make our way from Pro to Club, and with it, we make our way to one man only. And of course, it is today Mark Kent who gets ready to join me in the interview room. Although, do bear us a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen, because we need to properly bring him into the interview room. We can't just simply bring him in with a full Pro, which is those results are slightly a little bit wrong. So bear with us a brief moment, and we'll make sure they're right. And well, as they do appear on screen, you'll make sure that we need to introduce them the proper way. We do apologise for that. And what you'll see very shortly is those results will pop up on the screen. And well, he is the man who took victory today from pole position in the class, and he joins me now in the interview room. Good evening to you, Mark, and well, what a way to bring on home your 4th win of the season. It's escaped you for some time, but you finally found it. But how does it feel to be a 4-time winner in the club class now?
Oh, I can't believe it, honestly, mate. Genuinely, I didn't think I'd get a single win this season, so 4 of them is pretty special, yeah.
Well, a very special win, this one. And in qualifying, you looked as though you're in a bit of a world of your own, taking pole position by the best part of half a second versus Even Hauptke. Were you expecting that lap in qualifying, or was that a bit of a one-lap magic?
A little bit of one-lap magic, to be honest with you. I'd been running low to mid 16s in practice. I don't know where that came from. I think it was a 15.9 in the end, which... yeah, it was a mega lap from me. But yeah, I know Hulker is running very, very quickly these last couple of rounds. I did not expect to be that far ahead, to be honest with you. Yeah, bit of a miracle on that.
Well, a bit of a magical lap then, and in the race, in the early stages, we did see you open up a bit of a gap, but then you lost the lead of the race to Hauptke. What happened?
I just lost the car going into the chicane at the end of the lap. The rear just came loose on me and I looped it. Luckily, didn't cause any incident. It was just a self-spin, yeah. That dropped me down a little bit.
Now, I've got to be honest with you. You might want to go have a chat with Kai Hitchler after this, because he followed you. I don't know if you noticed, but where you span, his BMW literally followed you perfectly. Did you two plan it? Was it a synchronized effort that you'd gone for?
No, that was definitely not planned. I didn't even notice that. So I don't know whether he may have tried to avoid me and loop the car, or whether it was just us doing the same thing. Totally unplanned. Yeah, that's quite funny.
Well, it's good we've been able
Sorry,
to...
Kai.
Oh, goodness me, it's good we've been able to reveal that to you. But coming back to more the serious stuff, of course, after that spin, given the gap you'd already bought yourself at the start, you were able to very quickly catch up to Hauptke and retake the lead. It did look as though this BMW was absolutely rapid, to be fair. I mean, had you found some setup magic? Because by the looks of things, you had the speed in the corners and you had the thing the BMW is absolutely brilliant at, speed on the straights.
I'm not sure of the details of the setup. I'm not a setup guy, but we essentially softened the car up a little bit. It came out very stiff with our first draft setup, and we just added some wing. I think we had probably the highest wing on the grid for this one. So yeah, I wasn't actually terribly quick on the straights compared to the some of the other guys around me, but it was the corners where I was making up the time, yeah, especially down through the S's, I noticed. So yeah, I thank Dwayne for that one. He's a bit of a miracle worker with that.
Well, indeed, he's definitely made some magic happen with regards to the setup of the car, but still, coming back to the magic you made on the circuit, we did see you retake the lead, and afterwards it seemed as though you were gradually just gapping up the rest of the field. Strategy-wise, did you pit at the time you expected, or did you change the strategy because you had that gap?
No, literally very simple today. Run the tank, pit, fill it up, and go again. Very, very simple today. Mostly because obviously I had a bit more pace than I thought. So I just ran the car out. Yeah, nothing overly complicated today, Paul.
Oh, kept it simple, kept it straightforward, and in the closing laps, brought it all home, to be fair. I mean, it must have felt quite magical to take the win, but also know, with this result, you're still a bit of an outsider in the club championship battle, but you are now in the hunt for the title at Mexico.
Yeah, it's an outside chance, I think. I'd need some luck. It's been one of those seasons, this one, Paul. It's been one of those where you have pace, but you're lacking the consistency side of things. Obviously, I've had, I think, 2 DNFs, which have obviously not helped. So yeah, I think I'm hoping for season 3 I can correct that and maybe go on and find myself slightly higher up next season. Yeah.
Oh, fair play. So does that mean then when we head to Mexico in a week's time, the priority is more trying to secure the results that give Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport the Teams Championship crown then?
Yes, I think that the Teams Championship is the one we're focusing on as a group. We did not expect to be where we are with the Teams Championship. I don't even think we necessarily expect to win it, but we're going to go for it. Why not? As for the individual championship, I think we're going to try and get Dwayne into the best position we possibly can. and we'll just see what happens. Honestly, Paul, yeah.
Oh, fair play. Well, I like the thought of that. We'll have to see what happens on the day. But, of course, the FTVM machines, we absolutely given it their everything. Like they always do, and we've seen you do so today. Well, as I do get ready to let you go, the last two questions from me is firstly, Mexico as a circuit. Your thoughts on it?
I don't know. I've not driven it yet, Paul. So I have no idea what it's going to be like whatsoever. I've seen it being driven. I've watched a few broadcasts and a couple of our guys race it. It looks like a fun circuit. It's quite technical. But yeah, no experience of it. So yeah, I have no idea what I'm going into whatsoever.
All fair play. Well, you're going to have fun with it, no doubt about it, learning it. And lastly, as always, is there anyone you'd like to give a mention or a shout out to on the broadcast?
As always, I want to thank the guys at Full Tilt. Amazing bunch of lads. They work really, really hard. They love their sim racing. Also, I'd like to thank SRI for putting the league on, as always. Fantastic league, having an absolute blast. And as you probably noticed, our cars had the Kyle Busch number 8 on today, so I'd like to dedicate this win to him. Yeah, rest in peace, Kyle.
Oh, indeed. A sad day for motorsport of the passing of Kyle Busch, but fondly remembered by yourself, and we really do appreciate the tribute on top of the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport cars with the number 8. Mark, we'll leave it there. Congratulations today for taking your 4th win of the season, and a big thank you to you for joining me in the interview room. We look forward to seeing you and the team out on the circuit at Mexico in a week's time to see whether you can wrap up the standings in the favour of yourself, Dwayne, and the wider team. But until then, my friend, have a lovely rest of your evening.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Have a good one, mate.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Mark Kent. And, well, definitely a tough race day. But talking about the fact, in terms of the car, they've managed to find a way to soften up the BMW to make it much more compliant through the corners. And that seemed to be the key to success for Mark Kent and also Dwayne Hoffman. But outside of that, well, he was very happy with his qualifying lap, no doubt about it, but surprised himself a little bit. Was a bit quicker than he expected to be. But in the race, it was not for that spin through the chicane early on. We didn't realise he had a BMW follow him into that spin. And, well, he'll definitely be probably catching up with Kai Hitch to the side. Did we go together? And indeed, the answer will be yes, it will. But understandably, getting himself back on the road, found his way past even Halpka, and after that, it was all just bringing it home for that 4th win. And, well, mentioning the fact, on reflection of this season as a whole, it's been a season that's had ups and downs. He never really expected to take a win, let alone 4 of them. But you'll know for season 3, which we'll tell you a bit more about later on tonight, this has definitely been one of those seasons whereby if you can do this well in season 2, then surely in season 3, it's got to be the championship for him. We'll have to see, ladies and gentlemen, but that's in the future. Let's stay here and now. Next up, we've got another interview. We're going back to pro. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if we go back to the pro class, we're now going to get the opportunity to speak to a man who definitely achieved quite the last 2 place X challenge, because joining me in the interview room now is none other than Benjamin Massey. Ben, good evening to you, and what a day you've had today. No lap in qualifying, and go all the way from 39th overall to 10th overall, and 6th place in the pro class. I mean, I think it's your best result of the season, this, and what a way to do it.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I've not looked at the result, I mean, to see if it was the best result, but I guess it is. And I guess Red Atlanta's probably one of my best tracks, and drove it a lot in IMSA last week, but kind of just came in to this league race tonight just to have a bit of fun. Hadn't really done any practice or setup work or anything before, so just ran the grid and go set. And yeah, tried to do a last the first attempt, got up to P10, so it's a pretty good run.
Oh, indeed, an absolutely brilliant run from yourself, and drawing upon that experience of Road Atlanta. I mean, no qualifying lap set for yourself. You did try to get a lap together. I presume just a couple of invalidations right at the end.
Yeah, I knew that there wasn't enough time, so I just went out on, well, accidentally went out on the 50 litres of fuel because I didn't have a setup for the 80 or so litres, 79 too, I think it is. So I was just trying to see how it felt on, like, kind of race fuel. And then in the 2 minutes you get between, to grid, I just changed the ride height of the front so it would work with max fuel on the start. But yeah, maybe if I'd joined another 5 minutes earlier, I could have just got a lap in, but it's quite fun to do a last kind of first attempt as well.
Oh, 100%. And on that, of course, you had to pick your way past several drives along the way, club, inter, and some pros as well. I mean, just take us through what it's like overtaking at Road Atlanta. I can imagine it can't be easy, and there must be certain points of lap where you have to get the moves done, because otherwise, if you go to, say, the S's, for example, too wide through there is a no-no.
Yeah, and the S's, if I was, well, quicker than someone, but, stuck behind them, I'd just lift a bit, save a little bit of fuel and tyres. And then sometimes, depending on their setup and my setup, I was on 4.5 wings, so quite aggressive with the low downforce. So sometimes I could get them on the exit of the S's, I think it's like turn 5 or something. Try and go up on the inside there. I mean, some of them would obviously lift to let me through, and some of them wanted a bit more of a fight, which is fine either way. But also depending on the setup, if they were on a bit of a lower wing too, I'd have to get them a few corners later on the straight. But yeah, I think the low wing worked quite well, but the tyres were probably overheating a little bit since it's a 1 hour race by the end. So the last 7 or so laps, then I didn't have quite the pace I could have. But it was a good run.
Oh, 100%. It was a fantastic run. And with regards to your strategy, I mean, it was a very short fuel stop today for everybody involved, yourself included. But did you have a particular strategy in mind to try and maximise your time? Was it to try and find that space out on circuit?
Yeah, I mean, since I only joined 5 minutes before, I didn't really have any proper strategy, but I just thought I caught up to a few back markers, I think, on the lap that I pitted. I think maybe I stayed out for 1 lap behind them just to get close to the back of them and draft and stuff. But then when I saw, the 3 blue names on the relative, I just thought, this is the kind of the best time to pit, because I think it was probably like 25 or so places by that point before pitting or something like that. But I thought, that now's the best time to pit, because, they might be fighting each other. I don't remember the positions that they were, but yeah, just thought it'd be the best time to pit then, and I actually got quite a clear track on the end, on the exit. I just let Tim Perry through, because obviously he was P1 at the time, so just let him up through before the S's, so to not hold him up. But yeah, managed to come out of the pits with less than 1 litre remaining for the end predicted, so it was a good stop on the pits too.
Oh, 100%. It all worked out very nicely. And in the end, bringing home 6th place in Pro, and I have just double-checked the results. Unfortunately, it's not quite your best Pro result of the season. Your best was a 4th place earlier on, but it comes close. It's your 2nd best result. But either way, if you can achieve this at Road Atlanta today, what can we expect from you in Mexico in a week's time?
Well, unfortunately, I think I'm busy next week, but...
you can't do this to us, Ben, surely.
Yeah, true. I mean, I'll be available for the GT3 League, but on Friday we're doing some real-life stuff for my sister's birthday and stuff, so I'll have to prioritise that, of course. But yeah, I'll try my best in the GT3 League, and if I can figure out how to do the tracks on the calendar on low FOV, then hopefully I'll be able to do the GT League next season, and be able to focus it a bit more, because the calendar does look quite fun, and maybe try and convince Matt and Mike to do the next season as well. But yeah, I think for this season, this has to be the finale, unfortunately for me. It was a good run. Good fun season.
Oh, fair play. I mean, for your final round of the season, and well, you've got an absolutely brilliant reason as to why you can't make it, and we wish all the best to you. Celebrate with your family and yourself for celebrating your sister's birthday in a week's time. A happy birthday to her. You've absolutely bowed out on an incredible result, and to see you off, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Yeah, well, thank you to you, of course, for all the commentary and just every week putting in, and I think it's with the GT3 League, or maybe it's both, but doing the post commentary as well. It's nice to see it every week anyway, even if real life stuff gets in the way of live commentary, and all the hard work from the admins behind the scenes, and also with the weather as well. It's been quite fun to race with rain and stuff sometimes too. Adds another thing in there. And just thanks to everyone in the league for racing clean. I don't think, unfortunately, obviously last week with the incident with Tim Perry, but it's just a racing incident, and obviously it happens. But yeah, I'm happy that everyone in the league is racing clean, at least versus me. So yeah, thanks.
It's our pleasure, Ben. It's great to have you on the grid. Regardless of GT3 or GT, you're always a star out there, and much love for all the racing you bring week in, week out. But sadly, if this is your final round, you've ended on a brilliant high, no doubt about it. We'll see you on the grid in the GT3s next week, and we'll hopefully see you back on the grid for Season 3 of the GTEs. But until then, my friend, have a lovely rest of your evening, and well done once again.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a good rest of the evening as well, and hope to see you in Season 3.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Benjamin Massey, the pro class driver for Inox Motorsport today. Not quite his best result, a 4th place in round number 5 being that in pro, but to be fair to him, this has got to be up there as his best performance of the season. Tearing his way through, and mentioned the fact that he joined late, didn't have time to get a proper lap together, and in the end had to very quickly just take a setup and go with it, and had to adjust the front ride height to make it compliant with the regulations with regards to the weight of the fuel being put in the car. Well, if that's not just get into the car and go, or grid and go, as the setup provider would say, well, I don't know what it is, but the Inox Motorsport driver picked his way through, does love this Road Atlanta circuit, and to be fair, enjoyed fighting some drivers a bit more compliant than others, but every step of the way thinking about where to make those moves, and in the end coming up behind some drivers were going a lap down and decide instead to let those places go, and smart to do so, no doubt about it. And Benjamin Massey absolutely nailing it today. And well, what could it have been if he had qualified? That will be the big what if question. But that'll be his final round then. And of course, happy birthday to his sister in a week's time. He's going for a good cause, but we'll look forward to seeing him back in the grid in the near future. And I'll tell you one thing, it's not going to quite be the same without Massey in Mexico, but we look forward to the day he does return. But with that, ladies and gents, we've got one more interview to come. We'll be right back for our final interview of the day as we return to the club class. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if we spoke to Mark Kent, your winner in club today, we're going to be speaking to your runner-up as well. He joins me now in the interview room. It is none other than Dr. Dwayne Hoffman. Dwayne, good afternoon to you. What a result, 1-2 for the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport team. And for yourself, an absolutely critical second place that's going to put you right towards the very front of the club championship going into the season finale. How does that feel?
So, good afternoon, everyone, from a cloudy Commonwealth of Kentucky. Permit me one moment to have a swig of Kentucky's finest, very good bourbon, 15-year-old, specific limited quantity bourbon. Oh yeah, that's the stuff right there. About an hour before the start, we were really struggling with trying to find the setup. As Mark alluded to, it was a little stiff. And how we make our setups is we look at the officials and then make adjustments off of that. And what we saw in the officials and what we saw with SRI did not correlate. And so I went back into the repo that we have. And in the repository, there was an old 2023 spring and damper combination for this car that had ran well. And I said, you know what? Let's put that on and see what happens. We gained 0.7 a second per lap. Instant performance gain. And I went, aha, we now have a surprise. At Watkins, we had a surprise as well. Even though Mark forgot the strategy 15 minutes before quali ended, we had a very big laugh about that afterwards. But today, I knew Mark was going to be very rapid. What surprised me was how well I had qualified. That has been an area of opportunity for me this season, and incrementally, when I've made the strategic call to qualify, it's turned out pretty good for me. Gareth pulled my strategy and started from the back, so we were laughing in the Discord of, hey, is Gareth hanging out where you're at, Dwayne? And I'm like, well, it worked for me at the Glen. Maybe it'll work for him here. So To say that it is critical, I think, is the understatement of the season. We had to execute. We knew this track was going to be very challenging, set up for the Beamer. Finding out that Kai went off the same way as Mark, Kai and I have struck up an acquaintance, in the BMW posse, because he likes to run a low wing and we like to slap downforce on. So we have a good chuckle on that. I'm not surprised Kai ran off, not because of lack of talent, but just because he was too darn fast in the straight.
Oh, fair play. Well, the fact that you guys were able to get a very good setup together and one that was more compliant through the corners rather than worrying about the straights, with speed sounding to be a bit of an option, it gave you a very nice advantage. Although we saw Mark, like you said, really run away with pace, but for yourself, the pace kept growing as the race went on, and you gradually found a way to beat even Hauptke his game, because he put in a very impressive qualifying lap, but you were quicker over the race distance.
So we knew from Gunther telemetry that Ivan had a terrible in-lap to pit. He went off in 10A, 10B. And he also had a challenging outlap. So that was when we were prompted. Mark and I came in on the same lap just a little early. Air, which when he came out, he was in clean air. That's job one. Job two was for me to get slotted no worse than what would be P6 on the relative. We ended up P4 on the relative. And really, it was really about management. It wasn't quite as close as it could have been. I was really managing traffic. I do think Ivan in clean air was about 0.3 a lap faster if he could get in the draft, because he was going considerably faster down the straight than we were, something to the order of about 3 to 4 kilometers per hour faster. We were making all of our time from turn 1 to turn 7. Was where we were making globs of time. We were pulling out 0.4 of a second on our pursuers, regardless of traffic, because the car was so hooked up.
Oh, goodness me. Well, the pace in the car there so prevalent through the corners, like you say, and gaining at that 0.4 or so. And in the end, being able to overcome the pace advantage of Ivan Hauptke, who did have a bit of a longer pit stop as well, as we understand it. We believe he may have not taken the full starting fuel, so had to pit for longer to get the fuel to the end. But he made no mistakes in the closing stages and brought home second place. I mean, another 1-2 for the team. It's the third 1-2 for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport. That in itself has got to feel special, and that's before you consider the fact this result is going to put you really into the lead of the Club Championship going into the finale.
No lead is ever safe in a championship, and that's very important to state. Mexico being a 90-minute race where the points are accented at a 50% bonus level. And Mexico is one of those circuits where, unlike Mark, who he hasn't driven it yet, but he will. He'll put in some practice. That part I'm not worried about. I've done a fair bit of testing around Mexico in various cars. And there's really 3 considerations that you have to make, and they're all compromises. So if you tune it out for straight line performance, you have 0 grip in the S's. And when you get into the braking zone for turns 1 and 2, stopping the car, especially with the fact of the potential weather that may happen as well, that's the first thing. The second is suspension setup, because Mexico, You can run a stiff setup there. You can also run a soft setup there. It's what is your trade-off that you're going to have there. And then finally, and I think this is the key bit, folks need to remember Mexico is over 7,000 feet of altitude. And iRacing does simulate altitude. So you're going to have, in theory, less horsepower. You're also going to have, in theory, less bite on the car because there's less air pressure. So this is no means safe. It is no means a fait accompli. This is going to be a war. I have two excellent teammates that not only have speed, but they have racecraft. And we'll see how the standings, because, you know, there's drop rounds, there's things that have to happen. But for me specifically, this is my best drive in any SRI event. It's better than the win at Watkins. It's better than the podium at Sebring. And the sole reason is 20 minutes before the end of qualifying, I was so nervous about this race, I threw up in the bathtub from pure nerves. And it settled me down. It's like, okay, Dwayne, you've dealt with that. In there and drive the damn thing. And here we are.
Oh, indeed. I mean, it's such a brilliant story there to hear you calming your nerves and being able to get the job done and bring on home that brilliant second place. And, well, like you say, nothing is certain going into Mexico. Anything can happen at a circuit where you can set up the car for so many different approaches because Mexico is one of those unknown circuits. But we look forward to seeing you and the team take it on, not just for club glory, but also for team's championship glory. Just before I do let you go, Dwayne, is there anyone you'd like to give a mention or a shout out to on today's broadcast?
Well, you know, first and foremost, for me specifically, the good Lord who has granted me favor this season has helped me during a very difficult time in my personal life. Being able to race this has given me much needed solace in that season of being in the desert. Obviously, my teammates and both Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport and our sister team, Felinity V Racing. Yeah, I saw you out there in the chat. I knew you were there. I saw you. And obviously, you know, Gunther and Phoebe calculating really a fantastic setup. Once again, going our own way, Paul. It's kind of our thing, you know. We go our own way. And I echo Mark's sentiment for our condolences to Samantha and the Bush family as well. We chose to try to honor Rowdy, that was his nickname, in the only way we knew how, and that was to go flat out. And I think we did that today.
Oh, most definitely. You've honoured the memory of Kyle Rowdy Bush, no doubt about it, by going flat out. And, well, in your own instance, going full tilt, as the team name says. Dwayne, it's been an absolute blast to catch up with yourself and conclude our interviews today with you. Great to hear the insights, what's going on with the team, but also how you've approached this round and how it has been your best drive of the season so far. We look forward to seeing you at Mexico and seeing what you can bring to the table for the season finale. But until then, have a wonderful rest of your day. And well, congratulations once again on a brilliant drive to second place.
Thank you, Paul.
Hearing that from Dwayne Hoffman, ladies and gentlemen, the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport driver. And well, what a round it's been for him, but definitely insightful there, and we've always got time for Dwayne, to be fair. And I do love the way he really breaks it down in terms of what they've done with the car, but also on a personal level there. And, well, you may be sat there thinking right now, with regards to him saying that feeling very sick before the race due to nerves and needing just to expel a part of himself before going racing. That is not uncommon, not just on the simulator, but also in real life. And I want to tell you, when the nerves get that much to you, sometimes you do need to do something like that just before you jump in the car. And well, today for Dwayne Hoffman, he's definitely done everything right. Didn't have the pace to match his teammate Mark Kemp, but knew that Mark was going to be on a bit of a different planet when it came to pace, but knew he needed to find a way to be even Hauptke, and found a way to do so. But goodness me, was it close between them, but it went the way of Hoffman and the team in the end through strategy and making the right calls on the car setup. But the man behind the wheel had to get the job done. And Dwayne Hoffman right now, that really has been his story of the season. Get the job done and don't look back. Drive the car and bring home those podiums. And that's exactly what Dwayne Hoffman's becoming known for. And if he can do it at Mexico, he could be your club champion. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for us to wrap up our interviews. And let's give you a quick recap of who we've spoken to. Now, today we've had 4 interviews. It's been great to be back and bring you interviews once again, ladies and gentlemen, with our last couple of broadcasts being post-round, of course. We started off in the Pro class today with Philip Ansell for Cuda Motorsport, your winner overall after taking that pole position, making an 8th win of his 9-round season. Mark Kent, we then spoke to the Club class winner today, his 4th win of the season after taking pole and converting it, even with a bit of an abrupt spin for Full Tour Virtual Motorsport. Then we went back to Pro to speak to Benjamin Massey about his brilliant drive from the back of the field through to 10th place overall and 6th in class, and talking out the ins and outs of battling and overtaking at Road Atlanta. And then we came to Dwayne Hoffman for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, runner-up in the club class, the second member of the 1-2 for the team today, and talking about how the team got it right at setup. Also, he got it absolutely right when he needed to do so on the road. A big thank you to all 4 of our drivers for their time in the interview room. We always appreciate it. I'm sure we're going to get plenty more interviews to wrap up our season. Hopefully, we'll get some inter drivers in the interview room at next time out at Mexico. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we've got time for today. And it does mean it's now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching. If you're sat there right now wanting to know how you can get on the grid here at SimRacing International, indeed, the simplest thing you need to do is join the official Discord. Invite link at the bottom of your screen. And in doing so, well, of course, we've got plenty going on and wrapping up our current seasons, but it will be all coming back for another season. First, we have our Thursday evening GT3 Championship coming to the end of its 12th season with the Masters and Superstar splits, and we will be seeing Season 13 being unveiled very soon. But of course, we also do have what you've been tuning into today, the Friday GTE Championship Season 2. And, well, it's about time, of course, we revealed something we said a little bit about earlier on, because, of course, Season 2 is coming to an end after next week's season finale in Mexico, but we've already got plans for Season 3. And, well, I think we should bring it up on screen, don't you, ladies and gentlemen? So, without further ado, for those of you who've waited this long, well, here you go. You get the first look at what GTE Season 3 is going to be all about. And as we can see, firstly, we are back, and the new season will start on Friday, the 24th of July, 2026, with sign-ups open on Friday the 29th of May. I'll be very happy to say that I'll be back in the commentary booth covering most of the race in action live, and those rounds I can't cover live due to personal circumstances. I'll be in the commentary booth post-round bringing all the race in action as if it were live. But as we can see, with regards to a bit more of the details, Season 3 is back, and well, it'll all be starting that 24th of July. We'll see our 3 classes back once again, over 10 rounds of racing, and we'll have our 3 classes of Pro, Inter and Club with approximate iRacing splits, and we'll 35 personal drivers trophies will be won over the course of the season. But let's go into a little bit more detail, shall we, and reveal what's new for the season. Well, here you are, ladies and gentlemen. There's something to note straight away. The first big thing, of course, is the fact it's not weekly anymore. It's every 2 weeks. But look to your right-hand side. We've heard the feedback from the drivers, and those of you who love GTEs, you've all wanted longer races. We're turning it up a little bit. Our standard races will now be 90 minutes in length, and the longer ones, our endurance specials, will be 2 hours instead of 1.5 hours, so everything gets half an hour longer, and it'll push our cars and our drivers to the utmost there. And rather than follow the officials, we are breaking away from the officials for Season 3. We want to do something different to see us all the way through from summer to Christmas of 2026, and we are going to go with some of the best circuits in the world, which GTs have raced at, whether it be the IMSA Sports Car Championship or certainly the World Endurance Championship from 2010 all the way through to 2023. So pre-season will be at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. Then we make it away to Japan for the Fuji International Circuit, a staple of the World Endurance Championship with the 6 hours of Fuji. That'll be our season opener. Then we'll be heading to Road America, a staple of IMSA Sports Car Championship, of course. We'll make it away southward to Brazil for the Interlagos Grand Prix circuit. And of course, we couldn't have a season without Interlagos. It's always got to be on the calendar given what the circuit is like. It'll be our first 2-hour round. Then we head to the circuit, the Americas, for round number 4. And indeed, the very complex Texas State Circuit will keep the drivers on their toes as Sebring International will do the same only 2 weeks later in round number 5. But then round number 6, we head to Le Mans. We couldn't have an endurance racing round without Le Mans, of course. And then we'll be making our way to Canada for Motorsport before heading into Italy for the Monza Grand Prix circuit. And then it will be the Nürburgring Grosser Preisstrecke, or the Grand Prix circuit in its World Endurance Championship configuration for our final 2-hour round of the season. But our season finale, it'll be 90 minutes of racing, and it will be at the Algarve International Circuit, more commonly referred to as Portimao in Portugal, and that'll be for round 10 of 10. Indeed, a very different calendar, every 2-week schedule, but in the intervening week, there will be a practice session put on for all of our drivers, so that way they can keep the blood pumping and they can keep the GT pace flowing, and that's our target for season 3, to break things up a little bit and refresh things a little bit just to make the race a bit longer and see us all the way through to Christmas of this year. And in terms of the cars, of course, well, they'll be coming back in full splendour. Our 5 GT monsters to tame, the 4 GTE, the BMW M8, the Porsche 911 RSR, the Ferrari 488 GTE Evo, and the Corvette C8R GTE. They'll be back, and we'll expect drivers in Pro, Inter and Club to be taking each one of those cars out onto circuit. And we'll understand it's going to be an exciting season when we've got 35 personalised driver trophies to be won, and we'll approximately, of course, these will be adjusted based on essentially how many drivers do sign up in each of the classes. 7 in Pro, 7 in Club, 7 in Inter for our Drivers' Championships, and we're also slightly reconfiguring the Teams' Championship for Season 3, whereby you will see teams made up of driver pairings. It will no longer be teams of 3 to 4 drivers. Instead, it will be driver pairings. We're following the UK sim racing format on Sundays, and therefore there's going to be a grand total of 7 teams that can take home the silverware, because there'll be only one team that'll be the team champion, much like our drivers' champions. So for all that and more details will be revealed on the SimRacing International Discord in the near future. But that is a sneak peek of the plan for Season 3 of the GTE Championship. And remember, it all begins on Friday the 24th of July, and sign-ups open on Friday the 29th of May. So if you're a GT fan sat there right now, do not miss your chance to go racing with some of the very best in the GT category on iRacing. Indeed, let's keep these Grand Touring endurance machines alive, as we always should. Keep them in the memory. And Season 3 are 2-hour endurance races, as well as 1.5-hour races for 10 rounds, are spread all the way from the end of summer through to Christmas. You couldn't ask for a better early Christmas present. But of course, as we come back to our advert for all of our series ongoing, that's what's in store for Season 3 of the GTs, with our season finale next week. And of course, if you're a big GT3 fan, but you're a weekend racer, we also do have the UK Sim Racing Sunday Showdown that runs on Sunday evenings, and we're heading into the Showdown rounds this weekend, and we bring you those live from circuit side. But if you're looking for something far more casual, of course, we do have our practice league with free races per week on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. So the short story is, there's never been a better time to get on the grid at SimRacing International, whether you're a rookie all the way through to an esports professional. But with that, we also need to say a big thank you to our series and league sponsors, who include Carmate, Modern Technology, the GP2 Group, and lastly, but by no means least, a big shout out to Motorsport UK's esports division for recognising us here at SimRacing International as a recommended community. We're very grateful for that recognition, and long may it continue throughout 2026 and beyond. But speaking of what lies beyond, ladies and gentlemen, well, of course, all roads have led to our season finale, and next time, save the date, save it in your calendar now, round 10 of 10, Friday the 29th of May 2026, it'll be at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, where we will identify and crown our champions. And going into our season finale in the Pro class with 8 wins, all counting, well, for Philip Ansell, it is looking as though it's a gold-plated opportunity to end the season with a Pro crown, but Wilson Liu, the ever-faithful second-place finisher right behind him, is still within attacking distance. Meanwhile, in the Interclass, John Shamblin was 6th place today, a brilliant recovery from his drive-through penalty, which does mean that he has been able to make sure he hasn't lost too many points, but Cuda Academy right now in the form of Mark Calsben, David Payne, 2nd and 3rd today, it's all going to be level roughly so for the trio as they head into the finale, and as quiet for the club class, with Gareth Newton seeing his season end as this round. Well, who will fill the vacuum at the top at the final hurdle? Will it be Dwayne Hoffman? Will it be James Bostock? Or will it be the outsider of Mark Kent? And in the team's championship, can it be Full Tilt Virtue Motorsport, or will it be Coup to Motorsport who bring it home? All that and more, you have to tune in next time to find out how it all ends. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, you've been tuning to Season 2 of the SimRacing International GTE Championship. We have been the SimRacing International community, and I've been your host, Paul Walsh. And until next time, have a lovely weekend ahead. Make sure you enjoy it, particularly the warmer weather on the way. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, like our drivers, remember to stay on track. Good night.